Chapter 16. The World Remade, the Empire Rises. Time: the doom of Valyria to early century of blood. Pav. Kaelen Silvanor. The night the doom struck, the world screamed. Even hundreds of leagues distant in Sothoryos, the earth convulsed. In Ael'athar, the very ground beneath our fused stone and living wood cities heaved as if a giant hand had seized the continent and shaken it. Towering trees swayed violently, their deep roots anchoring the ground, but smaller structures groaned and cracked. The sky to the east, normally a canvas of endless stars, became a canvas of hellish fire. A malevolent, coppery glow pulsated from beyond the horizon, followed by a series of monstrous, echoing roars that shook the very air. These were not the sounds of thunder, but the death cries of a continent, the agony of a world tearing itself apart. Ash began to fall hours later, fine and gray, coating our vibrant jungle in a macabre shroud, turning the lush leaves to dull, mournful ghosts. The seas surged, retreating violently from our coastlines only to crash back with unprecedented fury, testing the strength of our newly built harbors. It was a terrifying display of raw, elemental power, a spectacle of destruction witnessed from afar, yet felt to the core. I stood atop the highest spire of Ael'athar's palace, my senses stretched to their limit. I felt the earth's wounds, the searing agony of the land. Elias Vance, beside me, his face pale and grim, watched his instruments spin wildly, recording energies beyond anything known to man. The Valyrian freehold was gone. Utterly, irrevocably annihilated. The greatest civilization the world had ever known had consumed itself in fire and blood. My dukes immediately rallied their forces. Valerius Ithilion's legions moved to secure any infrastructure damage and aid distressed communities. Silvani Lumiel's fleets navigated the churning waters to assess coastal damage. Fieler Ambaron's pioneers braced for potential seismic aftershocks, while Arian Kaelinar's smiths checked the integrity of Firesong's citadel. Within days, the ash settled, the sea calmed, and the terrible silence that followed the tempest settled upon the land. The empire was shaken, but unbroken. Our foresight had saved us. News trickled in over the following months, carried by desperate refugees clinging to makeshift rafts, by panicked merchant ships that had miraculously survived the storms, and by our own long-range scouting vessels. Chaos reigned in Essos. The mighty free cities, once held in check by the dragonlords, turned on each other in a brutal scramble for power, resources, and territory. The century of blood had begun. This period of unparalleled strife in the wider world, while a tragedy for many, was an opportunity for the Silvenar. While the great powers of Essos bled themselves dry, we would not engage in their endless wars. Instead, we would focus on trade, establishing our unique presence on the global stage, not through conquest, but through reliable strength and the bounty of our lands. Our empire will rise, not from the ashes of others, but from the prosperity we create, I declared to my dukes. We have food, a surplus born of Silvani's efficient agriculture. We have the finest crafts, products of Arian smiths. And we have the peace that others desperately crave. My most crucial strategic move was to look west. Westeros, a continent largely untouched by Valyrian direct rule, was still an enigma to many. They had their own kings, their own conflicts, but they would need resources. Especially food, as the global climate shifts from the doom might impact harvests. I personally led the first diplomatic and trade mission to Westeros, sailing with a small, yet impressive, fleet of our sleek, jungle hardwood vessels. Our destination, Aldtown, in the Reach. It was a hub of knowledge, trade, and power, far enough from the immediate chaos of the stepstones and the coming storms of the narrow sea. Our arrival caused a stir. Ships crafted unlike any seen in Westeros, crewed by the strangely youthful, disciplined Ael'athar. I sought out the Hightowers, the ruling lords of Aldtown, powerful and pragmatic. I presented them not with threats, but with an offer, a steady supply of exotic fruits, hardy grains, and preserved meats from Sothoryos unmatched in quality and quantity. While the free cities squabble over scraps of a fallen empire, I told Lord Hightower, we offer stability. We offer a continuous supply of the sustenance your people need. Our prices are fair, our word is iron, and our deliveries are unfailing. We seek not land, nor conquest, but mutually beneficial trade. The Hightowers, ever shrewd, recognized the immense value of such a reliable partner. They saw our well-equipped fleet, the disciplined bearing of my escort, and the strange, vibrant life that pulsed within my very being. They accepted. Thus began the age of Ael'athar trade. Our ships, flying the banner of the verdant sun, became a common sight in Westerosi ports, supplying the warring kingdoms with the very necessities they needed to sustain their conflicts, inadvertently binding them to us. Our name, once a whisper of myth from the dangerous southern jungles, now became synonymous with reliability, with quality, and with a quiet, undeniable power. We were not merely survivors of the doom, we were rising, steadily and purposefully, on a global stage where chaos now reigned supreme. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 17, Northern Shores and New Alliances. Chapter 17, Northern Shores and New Alliances. Time, early century of blood continuing. Pav, Kaelen Silvanor. Our initial success in Aldtown, establishing a robust trade with the shrewd Hightowers, was merely the first step. The Reach, while vast, was only one part of Westeros. To truly solidify the Silvenar Empire's name and its unique resources on this new global stage, our reputation for reliability needed to reach every corner. My gaze now turned north. The whispers of a harsh climate, proud, unyielding lords, and a vastly different culture only sharpened my resolve. Building alliances in such a diverse continent would prove invaluable. Leaving a seasoned trade delegation to manage the burgeoning routes from Aldtown to Riverlight Hearth, I once again led a small fleet, now accustomed to the chillier winds that marked the journey north. The ships, built from the rare, resilient hardwoods of Sothoryos, proved more than capable of handling the open seas and the occasional squall. Our destination was White Harbor, the largest northern port, nestled in the mouth of the White Knife River. Its reputation as a bustling mercantile center, ruled by the seafaring Manderleys, made it the logical next step. Our arrival in White Harbor was, if anything, even more impactful than our appearance in Aldtown. The heavily built northern ships, designed for icy waters and rough seas, seemed almost crude next to the sleek, living wood-infused hulls of my vessels. The sight of my crew, agile and quiet, their eyes holding a calm ancientness, drew curious stares from the grizzled longshoremen and bundled merchants. I sought an audience with the current Lord Manderley, a portly but sharp-eyed man whose gruff exterior masked a keen mind for coin. He received me in his hall, curious and cautious. Unlike the Hightowers, whose ancient lineage demanded a certain decorum, Lord Manderley was more direct, less given to flowery words. "They say you bring food from the southern hells," he rumbled, his gaze assessing my unblemished face. "And that your ships are born of trees." "They say true, my lord," I replied, my voice steady. "I am Kaelen, a merchant from the Silvenar Empire in Sothoryos. We bring sustenance from fertile lands untouched by the doom's immediate fury, and ships built by a wisdom older than men remember. While your kingdoms contend with each other, struggling to feed their levies and their people, we offer a solution. Grains that resist frost, preserved meats that last seasons, and exotic fruits that defy the harsh northern winters." Lord Manderley stroked his beard, his eyes narrowing in thought. "Silvenar Empire. I confess, I've not heard this name. Is there truly an empire in Sothoryos, merchant?" "Yes, there is, my lord," I affirmed, my gaze unwavering. "And we do not make contact with the outside world that often. Our lands are rich and self-sufficient, but the world's recent turmoil has presented us with a unique opportunity to extend our reach and offer our bounty. We seek only fair trade and a stable partnership." "And what do you seek in return, Kaelen?" he asked, his initial skepticism giving way to a flicker of intrigue. "Every man has his price. Gold, slaves, alliance in wars that are not your own. Peace," I stated simply. "And fair trade. We seek iron, hardy furs, perhaps some of your northern timber, though ours is superior. We seek a relationship built on trust and mutual benefit. Our word is iron, our deliveries unfailing. We desire only to make a name for the Silvenar Empire as a reliable partner in a world that has lost its footing." He grunted, then a slow smile spread across his face. "A bold claim, but a hungry north cares little for ancient grudges when bellies are empty. Prove your word, Kaelen, and White Harbor will open its coffers." And so, trade began to flow north. Our ships, now a familiar sight in White Harbor, discharged their vital cargoes, and returned south laden with the North's offerings. The lords of the North, pragmatic and resilient, quickly recognized the invaluable support our trade provided during a period of widespread hardship. The name, Silvenar Empire, though still shrouded in distant mystery, began to gain a reputation for consistent reliability across the distant, frozen wall. The Silvenar Empire was quietly weaving itself into the very fabric of the wider world, not through the clang of swords, but through the consistent hum of trade, carried by a merchant and his strange ships from a hidden land. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 18. The Empire's Name, the Maester's Gaze. Chapter 18. The Empire's Name, the Maester's Gaze. Time. Circa 100 AC, the end of the Century of Blood. Kaelen Silvanor. The Century of Blood, 100 years of relentless conflict and shifting allegiances in Essos, had finally begun to wane. While the free cities exhausted themselves in their endless feuds, the Silvenar Empire rose, not with dragons and swords, but with an unwavering tide of trade. My ships, sleek and silent, had become the lifeblood of Westeros, ferrying essential foodstuffs to every major port, from the burgeoning gold road trade of Lannisport to the distant, frozen shores of White Harbor, and even the strategic fortress of Dragonstone. Through this consistent, indispensable supply, the name Silvenar Empire was no longer merely a whispered curiosity but a recognized entity. Kaelen, the merchant from its distant, verdant lands, had become known not just for reliability, but for an uncanny ability to always deliver, regardless of storm or war. Over the decades, as my trade network intertwined with the very fabric of Westerosi and Essos economies, the questions about the true nature of my homeland grew more insistent. I had answered them always with the same measured truth. The Silvenar Empire exists in Sothoryos, a land of ancient ways. We do not make contact with the outside world often, but the recent turmoils have shown us the world's great need, and our lands are bountiful. This carefully cultivated mystique, combined with undeniable economic power, transformed a reclusive people into a force acknowledged, even if not fully understood. The world now knew the Silvenar Empire for its trade, its consistent provision of plenty. It was in this era, as the fires of the Century of Blood began to dim, that a most unexpected delegation arrived at the shores of Ael'athar. A fleet of Maester's ships, emblazoned with the chains and rings of the citadel, sailed into our main harbor. They were granted safe passage, observed by my well-armed and ever-vigilant fleets, their intent relayed through careful communication. They did not come for trade. They came, astonishingly, to meet the Emperor of the Silvenar. The era of the merchant Kaelen had subtly, irrevocably, shifted. The world knew the name, and now they sought its heart. I received them in the Grand Council Hall of Ael'athar, a space of living wood and luminous stone, unlike anything they had ever witnessed. The delegation was led by a Grand Maester, his chain heavy with rings of every metal, his face a mask of scholarly gravitas. Around him stood several other maesters, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe, suspicion, and scientific fervor as they beheld the unique architecture and the distinct, ageless beauty of my people. Our skin tones, our unusual hair colors, our eyes that often held an ancient depth, and most notably, the slight, elegant point of our ears, all marked us as profoundly different from the men of Westeros. Greetings, Emperor Kaelen, the Grand Maester began, his voice surprisingly steady. We are representatives of the citadel of Aldtown, the heart of knowledge in Westeros. For decades, your empire's trade has been a lifeline to our lands. Yet, your people remain an enigma. We have heard tales, seen the subtle distinctions in your kin who accompany your vessels. We seek, with your leave, to study the Silvenar Empire. He gestured to my people, his gaze lingering on a young Silvenar with sapphire blue hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. To understand your origins, your unique physiology, your apparent resistance to disease and the ravages of time. Your people are unlike any other known race, and the Citadel's purpose is knowledge, to understand the world in all its forms. The unspoken words hung in the air, you are different. You are magical, and the Citadel has historically held a deep-seated distrust of magic. Their words were cloaked in scholarly curiosity, but the underlying tension was palpable. They sought to unravel us, perhaps to understand us, or perhaps to control what they could not comprehend. I listened, my gaze unwavering, my mind sifting through their intentions. This was a risk, a calculated gambit forced by our very success. To refuse outright might brand us as hostile, or worse, confirm their darkest suspicions. But to allow them unfettered access, that was unthinkable. You seek knowledge, I stated, my voice resonating through the hall, calm but with an undercurrent of steel. And the Silvenar Empire values understanding. You may establish a small presence here in Ael'athar, under strict supervision. You may observe, you may question, you may record. We will share certain aspects of our history and our interaction with the natural world, in ways we deem appropriate. My eyes locked onto the Grand Maesters, and the air in the chamber grew still, thick with unspoken power. But let me be clear. Your purpose is knowledge, not interference. We are a people of peace, but our strength runs deeper than you can fathom. If a single one of my people is harmed, if any of your studies prove to be a pretense for espionage, or if you attempt to cross the boundaries I set, know this. My voice dropped, becoming a low, dangerous rumble that seemed to echo from the very stones. I will make the citadel pay for it 100 times over. There will be no corner of your world, no ancient text, no hidden lore that will be safe from the wrath of the Silvenar Empire. You will find our reclusiveness was a choice, not a weakness. The Grand Maester, for all his scholarly courage, visibly paled. The implied threat was clear, delivered with an authority that transcended mere words. He swallowed hard, then slowly nodded. Understood, Emperor. We seek only knowledge. And so, the doors of the Silvenar Empire opened, if only a crack, to the watchful, wary eyes of the citadel. The world's recognition had now brought forth its probing hand, and the delicate dance between revelation and secrecy had just begun. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 19. The Dragon's Covenant and the Emerald Line. Chapter 19. The Dragon's Covenant and the Emerald Line. Time. Circa 100 AC, the aftermath of the Century of Blood. Pav. Kaelen Silvanor. The Century of Blood had finally drawn its last breath, leaving behind a world reshaped. While the free cities reeled from their exhaustion, and the kingdoms of Westeros cautiously eyed each other, the name of the Silvenar Empire echoed across the trading lanes, synonymous with the stability and prosperity it had consistently provided. I, Kaelen, the merchant who had become emperor through consistent delivery and strategic diplomacy, now found my realm a beacon of order in a fractured world. The Citadel's wary overtures, though a risk, solidified our recognized presence. It was in this era of emerging new orders that a most formidable and ancient house sought audience. Not a dwindling remnant, but a true titan from the old world, a house that had heeded my subtle warning decades ago and escaped the Doom's fury with their power largely intact, House Valiria. They were one of the few Dragonlord families who had chosen foresight over defiance, securing their lineage, a significant portion of their wealth, and their precious dragons on a secluded island in the summer sea. For a century, they had governed themselves, rebuilding their strength in the shadows, watching the chaos of the Century of Blood unfold. But as the long conflict drew to a close, they recognized a new truth. Even with dragons, a single house, no matter how powerful, could not stand alone against a world now coalescing into larger, more stable powers. They needed a larger framework, a secure future. Their arrival at the designated island, a verdant and strategically vital piece of land near the Stepstones, was an AWE-inspiring sight. 12 dragons, their scales shimmering under the sun, descended from the sky, their roars echoing across the waves. They carried riders of silver hair and violet eyes, a striking presence that commanded immediate respect. This was power, raw and undeniable, a living echo of the ancient freehold. Accompanying them were ships laden with half their ancestral wealth, a testament to their enduring might. The head of the house who came to Ael'athar was Lord Maekar Baleres, a man of formidable presence, his silver hair long, his violet eyes sharp with the wisdom of generations. He was the great Granon of the Baleres who had first received my warning, and he carried the weight of his house's survival on his shoulders. He came not as a supplicant, but as a potential ally, seeking a unique covenant. I received him in the Grand Council Hall, the space designed to awe even the most jaded of visitors. Lord Maekar, for his part, studied the living architecture and the calm, ancient faces of my people with an open curiosity that bordered on fascination. He knelt, not in submission, but in deference, acknowledging the unique power of the Silvenar. Emperor Kaelen, he began, his voice resonant, House Baleres seeks not merely to endure, but to thrive. We have watched your Silvenar Empire rise, not through conquest, but through an unrivaled stability and foresight. Our house survived the doom, and we have governed ourselves for a century, but the world has changed. The Century of Blood has shown us that even with dragons, a single flame can be extinguished. We believe a union between our houses would forge a power unlike any the world has ever known. He rose, his gaze steady. We offer our loyalty, our vast wealth, our ancient knowledge, and our dragons. In return, we seek a covenant of protection and shared destiny. My daughter, Valla is of marriageable age. We offer her to you, to become your empress, binding our houses, our fates, and our future to the Silvenar Empire. This was a negotiation between equals, each offering immense power. To integrate dragonlords and their dragons into the very heart of the Silvenar Empire would accelerate my long-term goals immeasurably, providing a visible, terrifying shield for our hidden power. Valla, when I met her, possessed the ethereal beauty common to those of Valyrian descent, with striking violet eyes and silver gold hair. She carried herself with the poise of a true dragonlord, her intelligence keen, her spirit unbroken. My internal thoughts acknowledge the gravity. Valla, for all her beauty and lineage, was mortal. Her life, though perhaps long by human standards, would be but a blink compared to my own endless existence. This was a union of alliance, of power, of blood, not necessarily of forever. This was a truth understood, not by explicit discussion, but by the subtle, knowing glances Lord Maekar exchanged with me, acknowledging the vast difference in our lifespans and the potential for future unions of political necessity. This marriage would be the first, but not the last, of my formal alliances. There is one more crucial detail, I stated, my eyes fixed on Lord Maekar, who watched me with intense focus. A matter of legacy. My union with your daughter will yield children unlike those of ordinary human and elven unions. Our children, born of my direct bloodline, will inherit the full essence of the Ael'athar. They will be high elves, possessing the agelessness, the innate connection to the natural world, and the unique traits of my people. They will be the new foundation of the Silvenar ruling line. Lord Maekar's composure, even with his powerful dragons, faltered for a moment, replaced by a profound understanding and awe. This was the true prize, the ultimate reason for seeking this alliance. This was far beyond mere political gain. This was the promise of rebirth for his bloodline, a chance to infuse their ancient Valyrian heritage with something truly immortal and powerful. He knew that when other elves, lesser kin, perhaps, or those whose blood had been diluted over millennia, took human brides, their offspring were typically half-elves, inheriting a blend of traits, but not the full, undiluted power of my line. My lineage, however, offered something more, something pure. This is the greatest covenant, Lord Maekar breathed, a rare, genuine smile gracing his lips. The ultimate fusion of power and longevity. House Baleares accepts. And so, the pact was sealed. Valla would journey to Eltharion, a living bridge between the formidable might of ancient Valyria and the ascendant power of the Silvenar Empire. My first empress, and the first of many steps into a future where my aunt's hidden empire would wield undeniable influence across the known world. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 20. The Unveiling of an Empire, a Dragonlord's Wedding. Chapter 20. The Unveiling of an Empire, a Dragonlord's Wedding. Time: 7 BC. Pav: Kaelen Silvanor. The Century of Blood, 100 years of relentless conflict and shifting allegiances in Essos that began with the doom of Valyria, still raged in distant lands, though its fiercest fires seemed to be drawing towards a close. While the free cities continued to exhaust themselves in their endless feuds, the Silvenar Empire rose as a new kind of power. My unwavering trade had cemented our name across the known world, and I, Kaelen, the merchant who had become emperor through consistent delivery and strategic diplomacy, now found my realm a beacon of order and prosperity amidst the chaos. The Citadel's wary overtures, with their small, supervised presence within Eltharion, were testament to this newfound recognition. It was in this era, 5 years before Aegon Targaryen would begin his momentous conquest, that a most formidable and ancient house sought audience. House Baleares. Over a century ago, they had heeded my subtle warning before the doom consumed Valyria, securing their lineage, a significant portion of their wealth, and their precious dragons on a secluded island. For 100 years, they had governed themselves, rebuilding their strength in the shadows, navigating the relentless chaos of the Century of Blood. But as the long conflict had worn on, even their formidable power seemed less secure in isolation. They recognized a new truth. Even with dragons, a single house could be extinguished in a world now slowly coalescing into larger, more stable powers. They needed a larger framework, a secure future, and they saw it in the rising influence of the Silvenar Empire. Their arrival at the island I had designated for them near the Stepstones was an AWE-inspiring sight. 12 dragons, their scales shimmering under the sun, descended from the sky, their roars echoing across the waves. They carried riders of silver hair and violet eyes, a striking presence that commanded immediate respect. This was power, raw and undeniable, a living echo of the ancient freehold. Accompanying them were ships laden with half their ancestral wealth, a testament to their enduring might. Lord Makar Baleres, the current head of the house and great-grand-aunt of the one who had made the initial migration, had formally sought to integrate his house into my empire. The preparations for the marriage of Emperor Kealen and Valla Baleres, daughter of dragons, swept through Ael'athar. This was not merely a union of two individuals, but a profound melding of ancient powers, the subtle, ageless might of the Silvenar with the overt, terrifying majesty of Valyrian dragonlords. Every detail was meticulously orchestrated, from the living tapestries woven with light and flora that adorned the grand halls to the ethereal music that resonated from crystalline instruments. Invitations, carried by my swiftest ships, ventured north to White Harbor for the Manderleys, west to Aldtown for the Hightowers, and along the bustling Gold Road for the Lannisters. These were the houses that had come to rely on the Silvenar Empire's unwavering trade, the lords who had witnessed our prosperity and acknowledged my emperorship. Their presence at this wedding would be a testament to the Silvenar's growing influence across Westeros, and a formal acknowledgement of our new, public ties to the legendary dragonlords. Their awe, when they witnessed a dozen dragons circling the skies above Ael'athar, was palpable. The wedding itself was a spectacle unlike any ever witnessed in Westeros or Essos. Maesters from the citadel, still wary but intensely fascinated, observed every detail, their quills scratching furiously in their notebooks. Lords and ladies from the north, the Reach, and the Westerlands arrived, their eyes wide with disbelief as they beheld the sheer scale of the Baleres dragons, and the ethereal beauty of my Silvenar kin. I took Vala's hand before a grand altar carved from a single, immense geode that pulsed with soft, inner light. Our vows were spoken in the ancient tongue of my people, a language that flowed like water and resonated with the very earth. When our hands joined, a subtle ripple of power passed between us, felt by my kin and perhaps even dimly by the maesters. It was a formal acknowledgement of the blending of two powerful bloodlines. The celebration that followed was a joyous display of Silvenar culture, blending the exotic with the practical, offering sights and tastes that astonished our mortal guests. Far across the narrow sea, on the windswept island of Dragonstone, the news of the wedding struck House Targaryen like a thunderclap. Aegon Targaryen, a young lord of solemn demeanor, stood with his elder sister and wife, Visenya, and his younger sister and wife, Rhaenys, before a freshly arrived raven. The scroll, bearing the unfamiliar seal of the Silvenar Empire and detailing the union, was passed between them. Baleres, Visenya murmured, her silver eyes narrowed. I thought them all consumed by the doom, or scattered into obscurity. 12 dragons, and half their wealth. Her voice was laced with disbelief and a hint of the steel she possessed. Rhaenys, ever the dreamer, tapped her chin. An emperor of Sothoryos, and his people are said to be ageless, with pointed ears and strange hair colors. It sounds like something from a child's fable. But even her voice held a note of genuine curiosity. Aegon, however, remained silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the parchment. His purple eyes held a complex mixture of thoughts. For generations, the Targaryens had nurtured their 3 remaining dragons, clinging to their Valyrian heritage as the sole surviving dragonlords. They had meticulously planned their eventual conquest of Westeros, a destiny they felt was theirs. But the sudden emergence of House Baleres, not only alive and powerful but aligned with an unknown emperor from Sothoryos, drastically altered the political landscape. This Silvenar Empire, their trade has become vital to Westeros, Aegon finally spoke, his voice low, almost a rumble. They did not conquer, they provided, and now, they bind themselves to a house of dragonlords with such strength. Visenya looked at him, her expression grave. It changes things, brother. We were meant to be the only ones. The only true heirs of Valyria. Perhaps, Aegon said, rolling the parchment slowly, but the world is larger than we imagined. This Emperor Kealen has amassed influence in a century, what we have only dreamt of for generations. He has secured allegiance through prosperity and marriage, not fire. Their existence, their alliance, is a variable we cannot ignore. A power that might be rival or ally. It forces us to reconsider our timing, our approach. The conquest of Westeros may yet begin, but it seems there are more dragons in this world than we once believed, and more emperors besides ourselves. The surprise of the Targaryens was profound. The revelation of House Valeris's survival and their alliance with the enigmatic Silvenar Empire ignited new considerations in the minds of the Dragonlords of Dragonstone, forcing them to re-evaluate their carefully laid plans for the future of Westeros. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 21. The Emerald Court and the Dragon's Seat. Chapter 21. The Emerald Court and the Dragon's Seat. Time: 7 BC. Pav: Kaelen Silvanor. The grand festivities of the marriage slowly receded, leaving behind not emptiness, but a new, resonant hum within the very soul of Eltharion. The Westerosi lords and maesters, their minds reeling from the sight of Baleri's dragons and the ethereal beauty of my kin, had departed, their ships laden not just with the bounty of our trade, but with tales that would surely reshape perceptions across the narrow sea. Their departure left behind a palpable shift in the city's atmosphere, a transition from grand celebration to the profound work of integration, diplomacy, and the weaving of fates. The early days of my union with Empress Valla Baleries were a carefully orchestrated dance of discovery and strategic alignment. In the serene, flowing lines of our shared chambers, where living wood spiraled into luminous ceilings and water features murmured with a perpetual calm, we spoke with a directness born of necessity and a growing mutual respect. Valla, with her piercing amethyst eyes and an intellect honed by centuries of Valyrian lore and a century of independent survival, grasped the essence of my being with remarkable clarity. She understood the vastness of my lifespan, the perspective that viewed mortal generations as fleeting moments. "I am a bridge, Emperor," she had stated during one of our early, quiet conversations, her voice clear and resonant, "between the ancient might of old Valyria and the dawn of a new age, a future you are building. My years are but a breath to your eternal one, but I offer them fully, with my wit, my lineage, and my unwavering loyalty. I will serve the Silvenar, and our children, with every fiber of my being, ensuring that the legacy we forge endures far beyond my mortal span." I found myself increasingly fascinated by her. Her pragmatism was not cold, but deeply rooted in a fierce, ancestral pride and a profound sense of duty. She did not seek to understand my nature in a way that questioned or challenged it, but rather to comprehend how her own life, potent as it was, could best align with its infinite flow. I, in turn, found in her a mind capable of grasping the intricate tapestry of political nuance in the mortal world, a perspective sharpened by the stark realities of the century of blood that I, in my long view, sometimes overlooked. Our intimacy grew not from infatuation, but from this intellectual and strategic communion, a profound bond of shared purpose. There was a blossoming fondness, a quiet comfort in her presence that settled upon my ancient soul, a rare and cherished warmth. It was a partnership of immense consequence, one that would shape generations, even if my own life knew no end. The grand halls of Eltharion, usually vibrant with the hum of scholarly pursuits and meticulous trade logistics, now became the epicenter of the Emerald Council. This was my highest governing body, composed of the wisest and most discerning among the Ael'athar. There was Eldrin, the guardian of lore, his silver hair braided with threads of ancient script, whose counsel was always steeped in historical precedent and deep understanding of the subtle flows of existence. Lyra, the master of currents, oversaw our vast trade networks, her mind a living ledger of markets, shipping routes, and diplomatic ties. And Gareth, the sentinel of the verdant shield, commanded our defenses, his quiet strength belying his strategic brilliance. These were the minds with whom Lord Maekar Baleries and his retinue now formally interacted. The initial meetings were cautious, a respectful probing between two profoundly different cultures. The Baleries contingent, led by Maekar and including his most trusted advisors and several younger dragon riders, brought with them a wealth of information that both confirmed and expanded upon my own intelligence. They laid out detailed charts of Essos, showing the ever-shifting lines of conflict in the century of blood. Their intelligence on the various free cities was invaluable, the strengths and weaknesses of Bravos's Iron Bank, the martial prowess of Mur and Tirosh, the secretive slave markets of Lee and Astaper. They spoke of the deep-seated resentment against the Valyrian remnants that still simmered in places like Volantis, and the burgeoning power of emerging petty kingdoms. Their reports on Westeros, though less direct, spoke of the internal feuds of the Reach, the proud isolation of the North, and the growing, if quiet, ambitions of the Targaryens on Dragonstone. The continent of Westeros remains a fractured realm, Lord Maekar observed during one session, his long fingers tracing a line across a map of the Seven Kingdoms. Its many crowns, each warring for dominion. They fight amongst themselves, largely oblivious to the greater shifts of power in the wider world. Their dragons are few, their understanding of the true arcane arts, limited. They are ripe for a unifying hand, if it were to come. My own long-term plans had considered such things, but Makar's insights, honed by a century of direct observation as a Valyrian outcast, provided granular detail and a perspective rooted in the visceral reality of that ongoing conflict. The discussions often turned to the practicalities of governance. My Silvenar counselors were accustomed to long-term planning, to gentle guidance and the organic growth of systems. The Baleares, in contrast, spoke of explicit command structures, of clear chains of authority, of military might and direct enforcement. It was a fascinating, often challenging, blend of philosophies, yet always respectful. We learned from each other. The most monumental decision stemming from these protracted councils was the formal integration of House Baleares into the very fabric of the Silvenar Empire's governance. My empire had always been based on decentralized control, with Ael'athar as the heart, and myriad trade outposts and allied communities operating with a degree of autonomy. But the sheer power and distinct nature of House Baleares, with their dragons and their history, demanded a more formal recognition within the empire's internal structure. This was not merely absorption, it was a strategic integration of equals. Our empire, built on foresight and prosperity, must now openly acknowledge its growing might, I announced to the assembled councillors, both Silvenar and Valyrian. The time for absolute reclusiveness is over. Our very success has drawn the eyes of the world. With the inclusion of House Baleares and their formidable assets, we must provide them a seat of power that reflects their stature and strengthens the entire realm. The decision was to establish a new dukedom. Until this point, the term, dukedoms, for internal Silvenar territories was largely conceptual, describing broad administrative regions within Sothoryos, each overseen by a high elder or a council. None had the explicit, formal structure of a traditional Westerosi or Essos noble title. But now, with the Baleares, a clear, named, and highly prominent dukedom was vital. On a sun-drenched day that felt like a new dawn, I made the public proclamation from the grand balcony overlooking Ael'athar's central plaza. The air was filled with a palpable sense of anticipation. Silvenar citizens, their faces alight with the subtle hues of their ancestry, mingled with the silver-haired Baleares kin and even a scattering of newly arrived merchants from distant lands. For their ancient lineage, their enduring strength, and their profound commitment to our shared future, I declared, my voice resonating with both power and ancient wisdom, amplified by the natural acoustics of the living city, House Baleares and their loyal vassals are hereby granted the authority and responsibility of the fifth dukedom of the Silvenar Empire. A cheer erupted, a blend of the melodic voices of my people and the more robust shouts of the Valyrians. This new domain shall henceforth be known as the Dukedom of the Sunstone Isles. I continued, gesturing towards the vast expanse of the western seas. Centered upon the strategic cluster of islands that have served as their sanctuary for over a century, the Sunstone Isles shall be a vital bastion of our empire, commanding the crucial sea lanes and serving as a shield against any who would threaten our peace and prosperity. The Sunstone Isles, a strategic choke point in the Summer Sea, had long been a silent guardian of the western approaches to my empire. Now, it was openly acknowledged as a core territory. Its unique geographical position, acting as a gateway between the Summer Sea and the uncharted waters leading to Sothoryos, made it an invaluable asset. Its integration meant that not only the Baleares' military might, but also their formidable knowledge of naval strategy and their 12 dragons, were formally pledged to the defense and expansion of the Silvenar's interests. Lord Makar, standing proudly beside me, bowed deeply. His people, a mix of awe and renewed pride on their faces, let out another roar. They had survived, not by clinging to the past, but by embracing a future with a power beyond their imagining. Baleares was no longer a shadow remnant, they were a dragon-blooded pillar of a rising empire. This formal establishment of the Fifth Dukedom, a seat of power explicitly for a human, dragon-riding house, was more than just a political maneuver. It was a conscious step into the wider world, a declaration of intent. It told the ambitious lords of Westeros, the warring free cities, and indeed, the Targaryens on Dragonstone, that the Silvenar Empire was not just a trading partner, but a force of unique and terrifying capability. My century of patience, of weaving subtle threads of influence, had now given way to a bold, public assertion of power. With the dragons of Baleares now flying under the Silvenar's emerald and silver, the subtle influence I had built was now backed by a very tangible, undeniable force. The game had truly begun. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 22, The Dragon's Fury and the Emerald Legacy. Time, 2 BC early 1 AC. Pav, Kaelen Silvanor. The year 2 BC dawned not with the usual serenity of Ael'atharian, but with distant echoes of a storm brewing far across the narrow sea. Messengers from our trade outposts, their voices laced with a mixture of awe and fear, brought word of Aegon Targaryen's landing at the mouth of the Blackwater Rush. He had come with his 2 sister wives, Visenya and Rhaenys, and their 3 mighty dragons, Balerion, Vhagar, and Meryxes, to forge a single kingdom from the fractured realms of Westeros. The conquest had begun. The news dominated the discussions within the Emerald Council. Lord Maekar Baleres, now fully integrated and serving as a crucial voice for the human territories of the Silvenar Empire, observed the unfolding events with a complex blend of ancient pride and strategic calculation. His Valyrian kin, particularly the younger dragon riders who still dreamt of their ancestors' lost glory, watched with a visceral excitement as their distant cousins, the Targaryens, unleashed the power that had once ruled the world. Their hushed conversations in the halls of Eltharion revolved around the Targaryens, audacious strikes, the burning of Harrenhal, the field of fire, the submission of kings. He moves with a speed and ferocity that even old Valyria would commend, Lord Maekar stated during one council session, his silver head bent over a map of Westeros, his finger tracing Aegon's rapid advance from the landing to the utter devastation of Harrenhal. The old kings fall like dominoes. The Storm King, the Gardener King, the King of the Rock, their ancient lines are extinguished by Dragonfire. The sheer audacity is breathtaking, a true display of what can be wrought by dragons and singular will. Eldrin, the guardian of lore, responded with his usual calm, his voice like the steady flow of a deep river. Their methods are direct, efficient, for mortals. But such rapid conquest often leaves embers that smolder for generations, seeds of resentment that can lie dormant for centuries before igniting anew. True peace, true dominion, Emperor, is built on more than fear and ashes. It is cultivated through trust, shared prosperity, and the weaving of hearts, not merely the bending of knees. His ancient gaze flickered towards me, a subtle affirmation of our empire's very different foundation. Lyra, the master of currents, ever pragmatic and focused on the intricate web of our global trade, was more concerned with the tangible impacts. Trade routes are disrupted, Emperor. The fear of Dragonfire, even distant, makes merchants wary. Ships are delayed, goods spoil, and goods once abundant now command exorbitant prices. The prices of iron and grain fluctuate wildly, and the instability threatens our established networks. Westeros is a significant market for our exotic goods and a source of vital raw materials. My own thoughts spanned not merely decades, but millennia. Aegon's ambition was grand, his use of dragons masterful, yet his vision was ultimately constrained by the brevity of a mortal life. His 1,000-year dynasty would still be but a blink in the eye of the Ael'athar. My primary concern was not the dominion of Westeros itself, but the unwavering stability of the trade networks that were the very lifeblood of my empire, and the steadfast protection of my people, our burgeoning influence, and the new territories gained through the Baleres alliance. We had cultivated peace and prosperity through patience and foresight. I would not see it jeopardized by another's fiery ambition. When the council turned to me for guidance, my decree was firm and unwavering, reflecting a policy of long-term strategic patience, yet underscored by undeniable strength. We will not interfere with them, I stated, my voice echoing through the grand, spiraling council chamber, resonating with a quiet authority that always seemed to settle the room, drawing all attention. Aegon Targaryen seeks to unite a continent that has long been divided by petty lords and warring crowns. His actions, while violent and rooted in the brutal ways of mortals, are confined to Westeros. He is forging his own kingdom in fire and blood, a path we choose not to walk. The internal squabbles and conquests of Westeros are not our direct concern, provided they do not spill over into our domains or fundamentally disrupt our way of life and our vital trade. My gaze swept over each counselor, lingering on Lord Maekar Baleres, whose expression was already understanding, nodding in quiet agreement. He, more than any other mortal, understood the vastness of our perspective. However, I continued, my voice gaining a subtle edge, a hint of the deep power that lay beneath the surface of the Silvenar. Let this be known throughout all our trade networks and to any who would listen. If they interfere with our trade, if they threaten our vessels, or if their ambition seeks to extend its reach into our established territories or the newly integrated dukedom of the Sunstone Isles, we will answer. Not with a conqueror's fury, for we have no need of their lands, but with the full, undeniable might of the Silvenar Empire. Our prosperity is our strength, and we will defend it with every resource at our command, including the dragons now pledged to our banner and the ancient magic of our very being. This policy, carefully articulated, was swiftly disseminated through our vast network of outposts, merchant guilds, and diplomatic channels. It was a quiet but firm warning, a testament to immense power held in reserve, without ostentatious display. For the next 2 years, we watched as Aegon finished his conquest, burning castles, accepting oaths of fealty, and eventually, receiving the crown from the High Septon in Aldtown and having the swords of his vanquished enemies forged into the monument known as the Iron Throne. Westeros was united, a single realm under a single king, a formidable new power now emerging on the world stage. Early 1 AC, the aftermath of conquest. The literal and metaphorical dust of Aegon's conquest had barely settled when a Silvenar delegation arrived, unannounced yet expected, at the newly established Red Keep in King's Landing. The city itself was still a bustling, chaotic construction site, a testament to Aegon's ambition. The delegation was led by Lyra, the master of currents, her elegant Silvenar robes contrasting sharply with the row-hewn stone and busy atmosphere of the nascent capital. She was accompanied by a small retinue of Baleri's guards, their silver hair and violet eyes standing out, and crucially, a young, quietly watchful Baleri's dragon rider, his presence a subtle yet potent reminder of the powerful alliance between our empire and the Dragonlords. King Aegon I Targaryen, now seated on his formidable Iron Throne, received them in the rudimentary throne room. He was a man of quiet power, his purple eyes sharp with the weight of recent victories and the immense task of consolidating his new realm. His sister wives, Visenya and Rhaenys, stood beside him, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, shrewd assessment, and the subtle wariness of dragonlords facing a new and powerful unknown. Lyra, ever graceful and possessed of an inherent dignity, presented Kaelin's formal greetings and the precise purpose of their visit. King Aegon, she began, her voice calm and clear, yet carrying a subtle resonance that commanded attention, the Silvenar Empire, by decree of Emperor Kaelen, extends its congratulations on the unification of Westeros. Our empire has long been a conduit of prosperity across the known world, and it is our desire to continue and expand our established trade relations with the newly formed 7 kingdoms, now under your singular rule. She laid out detailed proposals with a clarity that impressed even the battle-hardened Targaryens. These included exclusive trade routes that guaranteed reliable delivery even through tumultuous seas, agreements for mutual protection of shipping lanes against piracy or competing powers, and offers of rare Sothoryos sea goods, exotic spices of unparalleled fragrance, luminous woods that seem to glow from within, unique minerals with strange properties, and advanced Silvenar crafts, all delivered with an efficiency and quality unmatched by any other power. She spoke of our advanced agricultural techniques that could yield unparalleled harvests, and our refined metals that could create tools of incredible durability. Aegon listened intently, his gaze moving between Lyra's composed features, the silent Silvenar guards, and the ever-watchful Baleri's dragon rider. The presence of a Baleri's in the delegation was not lost on him, it was a potent reminder that the Silvenar's wealth was now backed by Dragonfire. He was well aware of the vast wealth and advanced nature of the Silvenar trade network, which even during the turbulent years of the conquest had largely managed to maintain its flow, proving its resilience and reach. After a period of intense, yet polite, negotiation, during which Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys pressed for details about the enigmatic Silvenar Empire, their unique nature, and the formidable strength of their Dragonlord allies, they came to a comprehensive agreement. The Silvenar Empire would maintain its privileged trade status within the nascent 7 kingdoms, unhindered by tariffs or piracy, in exchange for guaranteed supply of vital goods and exclusive access to their unique products. It was a mutually beneficial pact, marking the first formal diplomatic tie between the nascent Targaryen dynasty and the ancient, yet newly overt, Silvenar Empire. As the delegation departed, leaving behind a subtle scent of living forest and ancient magic, Aegon's thoughts remained on the mysterious Emperor of Sothoryos, whose power seemed to grow even as the world around him was remade. Back in Ael'athar, as the years immediately following the conquest unfolded and the new peace settled across Westeros, the future of the Silvenar Empire truly began to take root in a new generation. My union with Empress Valla bore its magnificent fruit, proving the profound implications of our blended bloodlines and the wisdom of our strategic alliance. Our firstborn was a boy, radiant from the moment of his birth. We named him Kealen Silvanor. He possessed Valla's lustrous silver hair, a shade of moonlit silver that seemed to glow, but his eyes were my own distinctive emerald, eyes that held both the ancient calm of the Ael'athar and a nascent spark of Valyrian fire. He was a robust, curious child, quick to learn and possessive of an innate connection to the living world around him, subtly humming with the magic of Eltharion. From his earliest days, he displayed a profound affinity for the grand, ancient trees that formed the very structure of our city. 2 years later, Valla gave birth to our second son, whom we named Kealen Silvanor. He was more the mirror of his mother, with her deep amethyst eyes, though his silver hair had a slightly deeper, richer sheen, almost like polished steel. Kealen was quieter, more contemplative, often found observing the intricate patterns of light and shadow, or poring over ancient texts. He showed an early and keen affinity for the scholarly pursuits of the Valyria's loremasters, delving into histories and theories of magic. Our third and final child, a girl, was born 3 years after Kealen. We named her Elias Silvanor. She was a breathtaking blend of both our lineages, inheriting the purest shade of Valla's moonlit silver hair, but with my unique deep sapphire eyes that shimmered with an almost liquid light, hinting at hidden depths. Elia was spirited and vibrant, with an uncanny ability to connect with animals and a joyous, melodic laugh that filled the palace halls. She moved with an innate grace, almost a dance, from the moment she could walk. These were my children, the living embodiment of the future I had envisioned. They were high elves, gifted with the agelessness of my line, yet carrying the potent dragon blood of Valyria within their veins, a fusion of 2 legendary powers. They would be the new pillars of the Silvenar Empire, a living testament to the union of 2 ancient forces and the dawn of a truly unique dynasty. As I watched them grow, exploring the living city with boundless energy, their laughter echoing through the verdant halls, I knew the foundation for an eternal empire had truly been laid. The world had changed with Aegon's conquest, but my empire had not merely survived, it had evolved, its roots now intertwined with the very essence of Dragonfire and ancient magic, destined to influence the currents of history for ages to come. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 23. The Emerald Bloom and the Scions of Power. Chapter 23. The Emerald Bloom and the Scions of Power. Time: 1 AC to 16 AC. Pav: Kaelen Silvanor. 15 years had passed since Aegon Targaryen had forged his Iron Throne and unified Westeros. 15 years since the Silvenar Empire had solidified its alliance with House Valyria, and since my union with Empress Valla had begun to bear its extraordinary fruit. The world had largely settled into its new order. Westeros, under Targaryen rule, experienced a fragile but burgeoning peace, while the Silvenar Empire continued its quiet expansion, its trade routes flourishing, and its influence weaving ever deeper into the tapestry of global commerce. The century of blood, while not entirely extinguished in its fringes, had certainly abated, leaving behind a scarred but evolving Essos. Within Eltharion, these years were a period of profound growth, not merely for the empire, but for my lineage. The laughter of children, a sound once rare in the ancient halls of the Ael'athar, now echoed joyously through the living architecture of our city. Arion, Kealen, and Elia, my first 3 children with Valla, blossomed into remarkable beings, their unique heritage shining brightly. My eldest son, Kealen Silvanor, now a striking youth of 15 years, was a testament to the blend of our blood. He possessed Valla's lustrous, moonlit silver hair, but his eyes were my own distinct emerald green, holding a quiet depth. From his earliest days, it was evident he had inherited my profound connection to the natural world, specifically my control over plants. We spent countless hours together in the vast, spiraling botanical gardens of Eltharion. He learned to coax vines to grow into intricate patterns, to command flowers to bloom out of season, and to mend blighted foliage with a mere touch. His affinity was subtle yet absolute. He could feel the pulse of the living wood beneath his hands, understand the silent language of the roots, and even accelerate the growth of entire groves. His training was not merely about power, but about reverence, understanding the delicate balance of life, the rhythms of growth and decay that define existence. He moved with a dancer's grace, his long, pointy ears often twitching as he listened to the subtle whispers of the flora. Kealen Silvanor, 2 years Arian's junior, at 13, was more contemplative, his temperament mirroring Valla's serene intellect. His deep amethyst eyes held a thoughtful gaze, though his silver hair had a slightly darker, almost steel-gray sheen. Kealen's inherited gifts were earth-shaping abilities, a form of geomancy, and a remarkable rapid regeneration. Under the tutelage of Gareth, our sentinel of the verdant shield, and later, my own guidance, he learned to command the very stone beneath our feet. He could cause fissures to open and close, raise defensive earthen ramparts, or smooth uneven terrain with a focused will. His skin, even after a childhood scrape or tumble, would heal with impossible speed, leaving no mark. His training involved rigorous mental discipline, for control over the earth demanded immense focus and patience. He often meditated among the ancient stones of our mountain caves, feeling the slow, deliberate pulse of the planet. Like all my kin, his pointy ears were a clear mark of his heritage. Then there was Elias Silvanor, my radiant daughter, now 10 years of age. She was a revelation. While both her brothers had inherited specific facets of my abilities, Elia had seemingly inherited them all. Her moonlit silver hair was a pure, dazzling cascade, and her eyes were my deep sapphire, shimmering with an almost liquid light. From a tender age, it was clear she possessed control over plants, the ability to manipulate earth, and rapid regeneration. She could cause wildflowers to bloom in her wake as she ran through a meadow, sculpt intricate patterns from the soil with a wave of her hand, and shrug off injuries that would fell a grown man. Her vibrant, spirited nature was perfectly suited to the flow of magic that moved through her. Her training was a delicate balance of channeling her immense gifts without overwhelming herself or her surroundings. She was a whirlwind of energy, her laughter echoing, her pointy ears often peeking out from behind playful strands of hair. As the decade and a half progressed, our family grew once more. Empress Valla, vibrant and devoted, blessed me with 2 more children, further intertwining the lines of Silvenar and Baleares. Our 4th child, born when Elia was 3, was another son, whom we named Valion Silvanor. Now 7 years old, Valerian possessed a more traditional Valyrian appearance with classic silver hair and striking deep violet eyes, though they held a keen, observant light that marked him as Silvenar. His abilities manifested subtly, lending him an enhanced awareness of his surroundings, an almost preternatural sense of balance and coordination, a heightened sense of hearing and sight that could pick out the faintest whisper or the slightest shift in the air. He moved with an innate grace and speed, often scaling the living walls of the palace with effortless agility. He loved to explore, his pointy ears always alert to every sound and nuance of the world. Our youngest, a daughter named Lorien Silvanor, was born when Valerian was 2, making her 5 years old now. She had my distinctive emerald eyes, set in a frame of soft, silvery blonde hair that hinted at her dual heritage. Lorien's gift was an innate affinity for water and healing. She could calm turbulent streams with a gentle touch, draw moisture from the air, and soothe pain with a comforting presence. Her touch was remarkably restorative, capable of accelerating the natural healing process of others, though not with the rapid, self-regenerative speed of a learner Elia. She possessed a quiet, empathetic spirit, often drawn to the soothing sounds of Ael'athar's internal waterways, her tiny pointy ears listening intently to their flow. Watching my children grow, each a unique testament to the potent fusion of our ancient bloodlines, filled me with a profound sense of satisfaction. They were not merely heirs to an empire, they were a new evolution. Arian, with his command over life itself, Elern, master of the earth and regeneration, Elia, a powerful synthesis of these elemental forces, Valerian, with his honed senses and agility, and Lorien, the gentle healer with the whisper of water. All of them possessed the defining pointy ears of the Ael'athar, a subtle mark of their immortal heritage. Their training was paramount. While Valla meticulously oversaw their education in history, languages, and the intricate politics of the mortal world, I took a more direct hand in guiding their innate abilities. We ensured they understood not just the raw power they wielded, but the responsibility that came with it. They were the future, the emerald legacy that would guide the Silvenar Empire through the millennia to come. My long-term vision had always extended far beyond the fleeting concerns of mortal kingdoms. Aegon's conquest had reshaped a continent, but my children, blending the strength of dragonblood with the ageless power of the Ael'athar, represented a force that could shape the very currents of the world itself, quietly, subtly, but with an enduring impact that would dwarf any Iron Throne. The world was ever-changing, but the Silvenar Empire, with its growing lineage of empowered heirs, was building something truly eternal. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 24. Dragonfire and Rootbound Hearts. Time: 16 AC 46 AC. Kaelen Silvanor. The 15 years that followed Aegon's conquest had seen the consolidation of his reign in Westeros, and within the Silvenar Empire, a period of unparalleled internal growth and familial blossoming. Yet, even amidst the serenity of Eltharion, a quiet urgency began to settle upon me. My children, the scions of the Silvenar line, grew swiftly, their elven grace maturing with each passing year, but their mother, my beloved Empress Valla, was mortal. Her years, though long for a human, were but a precious handful compared to the timeless existence of the Ael'athar. I knew this time, this precious family unity, would not last forever in its current form. My focus shifted, anchoring itself firmly on my children and the woman who had brought such vibrant new life into my ancient world. The most pivotal development in their training began with the hatching of the dragon eggs. These were not eggs gathered haphazardly, but carefully chosen by Valla from the deep caverns of the Sunstone Isles, eggs whose lineage traced back to the very same clutch that had escaped the doom with House Baleares. Valla, with her deep understanding of dragon lore and her innate connection to the beasts, took it upon herself to guide our children through the sacred, often perilous, ritual of bonding. The process unfolded over months in a secluded, sun-drenched valley within the heart of the Sunstone Isles. Each of my 5 children, their pointy ears a distinctive mark of their heritage against their Valyrian silver and golden hair, underwent the trials with a mixture of apprehension and an innate, ancestral drive. First was Arion, now a young man on the cusp of adulthood. His egg, the color of polished jade, sat nestled in a circle of ancient stones. He sat before it for days, his hand resting gently upon its surface, coaxing it with the gentle plant song he was mastering. When it finally cracked, a burst of emerald light erupted, and a dragon of vibrant, living green emerged. Its scales were like newly unfurled leaves, its eyes the color of forest moss. Arion named her Viridian, and their bond was immediate, a symbiotic connection that seemed to deepen Arion's command over nature. Viridian, for her part, often sought refuge amongst the densest groves of trees, her scales camouflaging her perfectly. Then came Ael'athar, introspective and calm. His egg was a mottled gray and brown, like a raw, unworked stone. He spent his days in quiet meditation beside it, his hands subtly vibrating with the earth magic he controlled. When the shell shattered, the dragon that emerged was massive even for a hatchling, its scales the color of granite, with veins of quartz running through them. Its eyes glowed with the molten gold of the earth's core. Ael'athar named him Terrace. Their bond was one of immovable strength. Terrace moved with a heavy, deliberate grace, and seemed to draw power directly from the ground beneath him, his presence making the very earth tremble slightly. Elia, vibrant and spirited, approached her egg with joyous anticipation. It was a kaleidoscope of shimmering blues, greens, and silvers, reflecting the light like a polished gem. Her boundless energy and command over all elemental forces seemed to hum around the egg. When it hatched, the dragon was a breathtaking sight. Its scales constantly shifted in hue, a living opal that shimmered with the colors of the deepest ocean and the clearest sky. Elia named her Aurora. Their bond was dynamic and unpredictable. Aurora was as quick and agile as her rider, her constantly changing colors a testament to the myriad magics that flowed through Elia. Our younger children followed. Valerian, nimble and observant, bonded with an egg of deepest onyx. His dragon, named Umbra, was a sleek, midnight black creature with eyes like piercing embers. Umbra was swift, silent, and possessed a keen predatory instinct, a reflection of Valerian's heightened senses and agility. They moved as one, a blur of shadow and speed across the skies. Finally, Lorien, gentle and empathetic, sat with an egg the color of a tranquil summer sky. Her healing touch and affinity for water seemed to soothe the very shell. When it hatched, a magnificent dragon of shimmering azure and sapphire scales emerged, its wings like flowing water, its eyes the clear blue of a mountain lake. Lorien named her Aquaise. Their bond was one of serenity. Aquaise moved with a graceful, fluid motion through the air, and seemed to bring a sense of calm to any place she landed. The hatching of these 5 dragons was a monumental event, not just for my family, but for the Empire. It ensured that the Silvenar lineage would not only wield the ancient power of the Ael'athar but would also ride the winds as true dragonlords, a power unseen since the Doom. For the next 30 years, my life became an intricate tapestry woven with family. I poured my boundless attention into my children, guiding their powers, nurturing their bonds with their dragons, and simply cherishing the fleeting moments with Valla. We traveled extensively, not for trade or diplomacy, but for the sheer joy of discovery, exploring the vast, untamed beauty of Sothoryos. Our journey with Arian, in particular, was a profound endeavor. When he turned 25, old enough to command his power with precision and Viridian with confidence, I began the long tour of Sothoryos with him, seeking a specific challenge, a profound connection that would solidify his mastery over the natural world. Our quest: to find and tame his first great ape. These were not the common, smaller apes of the continent, but ancient, colossal beings, living mountains of muscle and primeval instinct, deeply entwined with the oldest forests of the deepest south. They were guardians, often territorial and fiercely intelligent, almost like spirits of the very land. Finding one was a challenge, coaxing it into acceptance was a monumental task, demanding patience, empathy, and absolute control over life. We journeyed for years, Arian and I, often with Viridian flying above us, a green shadow against the jungle canopy. We navigated rivers teeming with monstrous fish, traversed mountains where ancient trees touched the clouds, and endured the humid, vibrant chaos of the unexplored jungle. I taught Arian to feel the heartbeat of the forest, to understand the subtle cues of every vine, every root, every living creature. He learned to project a calming aura, to offer sustenance from the earth itself, to communicate not with words, but with the silent language of growth and life. It took 7 years to find the specific great ape I had envisioned for him, a patriarch known to the few tribes who dwelled in that region as Goliath, a beast of immense size and terrifying power, his fur matted with ancient moss, his eyes holding a primal wisdom. For 2 more years, Arian patiently worked. He cultivated a grove of the ape's favorite fruits around its resting place, eased its aches with specially grown herbs, and slowly, imperceptibly, wove himself into the very fabric of its immediate environment. There were close calls, moments of intense danger where Goliath's roar could shatter trees, but Arian's burgeoning control and Viridian's watchful presence always prevailed. Finally, the day came when Arian, standing calmly before the colossal beast, extended a hand, and Goliath, with a rumble that shook the forest floor, gently nudged his head into Arian's palm. It was a bond forged not through dominance, but through understanding and kinship, a true testament to Arian's mastery of nature. Goliath would not be a pet, but an ancient ally, a symbol of Arian's power and connection to the wild heart of Sothoryos. While Arian completed his monumental task, the rest of the family continued their own development. Valla, with her radiant smile and boundless energy, reveled in these years. We took long flights on the dragons, exploring the hidden wonders of Sothoryos, from shimmering crystal caves to vast, ancient ruins swallowed by the jungle. She taught the children the Valyrian tongue, the history of her house, and the nuances of dragon riding beyond mere command, a deep, almost spiritual connection. Elern, with Terrace, perfected his geomancy, learning to shape mountains and divert rivers, building fortresses of stone in desolate landscapes only to dissolve them back into the earth. Elia, with Aurora, experimented with her multifaceted powers, learning to command both flora and stone in intricate, combined patterns, her rapid regeneration making every daring experiment less perilous. Valerian and Umbra became unparalleled scouts, their enhanced senses and quiet speed making them masters of observation and stealth across the diverse terrains of the continent. And Lorien, with Aquaze, explored the continent's myriad waterways, her healing touch a comfort to any creature or plant she encountered. These 30 years were a deliberate choice, a conscious deceleration from the pace of empire building. I knew that empires were built over millennia, but families, especially those with mortal mothers, required concentrated time, shared experiences, and bonds forged in the present. We were an unusual family, a blend of timeless elven grace and fiery Valyrian passion, and every moment spent together was precious. I watched Valla, her silver hair now laced with delicate lines of age around her vibrant amethyst eyes, her laughter still ringing clear but with a new preciousness. She had given me a family, a true legacy beyond the dreams of any conqueror. My children were growing into formidable beings, each a unique testament to the power that lay within the Silvanor bloodline. The training, the dragon bonds, the deep immersion in Sothoryos, it was all part of forging not just powerful individuals, but the future guardians and leaders of an eternal empire, rooted in this vibrant, ancient land, and ready for whatever the ages might bring. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 24. The Fading Jewel. Time: 46 AC. Pav. Kaelen Silvanor. The vibrant hum of Ael'atharian, a constant symphony of growing wood and flowing water, had always been the backdrop to my life. But in the year 46 AC, a different sound began to subtly permeate our existence, the quiet, almost imperceptible fading of a brilliant light. My mother, Empress Valla, the cherished jewel of our family and the heart of our new Valyrian legacy, was nearing the end of her mortal journey. We, her children, myself, Ael'athar, Elia, Valerian, and Lorien, had always known of this inevitability. Father, in his profound wisdom, had woven the truth of her mortality into the fabric of our understanding from an early age. We were high elves, children of agelessness, while Mother, for all her Valyrian fire and grace, was human. Her silver hair, once lustrous and unblemished, now held the delicate filigree of time around her vibrant amethyst eyes. Her movements, though still elegant, carried a subtle slowness, a quiet weariness that had crept upon her over the past few years. Yet, knowing a truth is vastly different from facing its imminence. The shift was agonizingly gradual. Her laughter, once so full and unrestrained, became softer, more breathy. Her stories of old Valyria, once recounted with fierce pride, were now told with a poignant nostalgia, her gaze often drifting to the verdant ceilings of our home, as if searching for something beyond them. Father, the Emperor Kaelen, whose ancient eyes had witnessed countless cycles of life and death, rarely left her side during those final weeks. His presence was a quiet anchor, his hand often resting gently on hers. His emerald eyes, usually alight with strategic brilliance or calm wisdom, held a deep, profound sorrow that, even at my age of 45, I struggled to comprehend. He moved with a stillness that was not merely elven calm, but an almost painful suspension of time, as if he could, by sheer will, hold back the inevitable. He spoke to her in hushed tones, the ancient tongue of our people flowing between them like a private stream, words of love, gratitude, and promises unspoken. We, her children, hovered near, each grappling with our grief in our own way. I, as the eldest, felt the heavy mantle of impending responsibility, not just for the empire, but for supporting my father, who, for all his ageless power, was losing a part of his very present. Ael'athar, ever the contemplative one, retreated to the shadowed alcoves of the palace, his face drawn, his usual studies abandoned. I found him once, his hand pressed against a solid stone wall, as if trying to draw comfort from the unyielding earth. Elia, whose vibrant spirit and manifold powers usually manifested in bursts of joyous energy, was strangely subdued. The flowers in her private garden seemed to wilt a little faster than usual, and the very ground beneath her feet would occasionally quiver with an uncontrolled tremor that mirrored the turmoil in her heart. Valerian, observant and sensitive, often sat vigil outside their chambers, his enhanced hearing attuned to every faint sound, while Lorien, our youngest and most empathetic, wept often and quietly, her healing touch unable to mend the one wound that truly mattered. The last morning was marked by an unnatural stillness. The usual soft sounds of Ael'athar seemed muted, the light filtering through the living foliage dimmer than usual. My mother, Valla, lay on a bed woven from luminous fibers, her hand resting in father's. Her breathing was shallow, her amethyst eyes, though fading, still held a beautiful light as she looked upon each of us in turn, a silent message of love and farewell. Her gaze finally settled on father. A faint smile touched her lips. My eternal emperor, she whispered, her voice barely a breath. You gave me a life beyond dreams, and children who are a living testament to what can endure. Thank you for our time. It was perfect. And with a gentle sigh, Empress Valla, my beloved mother, slipped from this world. The silence that followed was profound, deeper than any I had ever known. It was the silence of something fundamental ending. Father, for a long moment, remained utterly still, his emerald eyes closed, his hand still holding hers. When he finally moved, it was to gently close her eyelids. His expression was one of ancient sorrow, a quiet devastation that was all the more heart-wrenching for its lack of outward display. He carried her to a bier he had prepared, carved from a single piece of luminous white marble, surrounded by the most fragrant, rare flowers Arian and I had ever coaxed from the earth. He then retreated to the highest, most secluded spire of Ael'athar, a place where he often went to commune with the oldest energies of our world. He stayed there for days, his grief a palpable weight that settled over the entire city. The mourning for Empress Valla Baleares was unlike any ceremony previously held in Ael'athar. It blended the ancient, contemplative traditions of the Ael'athar with the more fervent, almost mournful rituals of the Valyrian dragonlords. The Silvenar sang laments that resonated with the very earth, their voices weaving into harmonies that spoke of the cycle of life and the journey beyond. The Baleares kin, led by my grandfather, Lord Maekar, arrived from the Sunstone Isles, their sorrow etched deeply on their faces. They performed their own rites, a solemn procession where each dragonlord offered a lock of their silver hair to burn in a sacred flame, a symbolic gift to the departed. They grieved for a true daughter of their lineage, the bridge who had led them to a new, secure future. My grandfather, Lord Maekar, bore his grief with the stoic pride of his house, but his eyes held an aching loss for his child. He looked at us, his grandchildren, a new generation of power and life, and his expression softened. He spoke quietly of Valla's courage, her intelligence, her unwavering spirit. He took on the mantle of supporting the Empire's external affairs, understanding that Father needed time, and that we, his children, needed space to grieve. For us, the children of Kealen and Valla, her death was our first true experience of loss, a stark reminder of the fragile beauty of mortal life. I, Arian, felt the weight of it in every fiber of my being. The responsibility of my lineage, the understanding that I was now the direct male heir of both the Emperor and the Dragonlords, settled heavily on my shoulders. I found myself instinctively reaching for Father, trying to offer what comfort I could, to act as a silent pillar. My connection to plants, usually a source of joy, now felt melancholic. Every budding flower was a reminder of life's brevity. Elern, my thoughtful brother, spent his days in the deepest, oldest caverns, drawing comfort from the unyielding permanence of the earth. His hands, often subtly manipulating stone, found solace in shaping the unmoving, unchanging elements, a stark contrast to the fleeting nature of life. His rapid regeneration, usually a source of quiet wonder, now seemed an almost cruel mockery of the finality of death. Elia, whose vibrant spirit had been dampened, slowly began to find her way back to herself through intense physical activity. She would fly Aurora for hours over the vast Sothoryos jungles, pushing the limits of her combined powers, as if trying to outrun her grief. Her elemental control, once so joyous, now manifested with a fierce, almost raw intensity as she wrestled with her emotions. Valerian, the observant, often wandered the edges of the living city, his enhanced senses keenly aware of the absence of his mother's distinct presence, the void she left. He found solace in the quiet comfort of Umbra, his sleek black dragon, often sleeping curled against the beast's warm scales. And Lorien, our youngest, her empathy a double-edged sword, felt every ripple of grief from us all. Her connection to water often manifested in quiet tears, and her healing touch, while still powerful, could do nothing to mend the broken hearts around her. She sought comfort in her siblings, her small hands often reaching for ours, an unspoken plea for reassurance. The passing of Empress Valla left an irreplaceable void, but it also forged a new, unbreakable bond within our family. We, the children, leaned on each other, our unique gifts and blended heritage making us a unit unlike any other. Father, after his period of profound mourning, returned to us, his sorrow a new, quiet layer upon his ancient spirit, but his focus on our development and the future of the Empire remained undimmed. He knew, more acutely than ever, the preciousness of time, and the imperative to ensure that Valla's legacy, our living legacy, would endure for all ages within the ever-growing Silvenar Empire. Her light might have faded, but her children, empowered by her Valyrian blood and my Ael'athar spirit, would carry her essence into an eternal dawn. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 25. The Empress's Return to the Living Heart. Chapter 25. The Empress's Return to the Living Heart. Time, 46 AC, shortly after Valla's passing. Pav, Kaelen Silvanor. The days following Valla's quiet departure had settled into a profound stillness within Eltharion. The initial, raw shock had given way to a deep, pervasive sorrow that touched every living thing in our city. My own grief was an ancient ache, familiar yet utterly fresh, a sorrow woven into the very fabric of my being. I had withdrawn, as was my way in times of profound loss, allowing the ageless rhythms of the land to absorb my pain. But now, it was time for the final farewell, the solemn ceremony that would honor Empress Valla and mark her passage from our sight. The funeral of an empress, especially one who had so profoundly bridged two worlds, was to be a convergence of traditions, a testament to her unique legacy. My Ael'athar kin, with their deep reverence for the cycles of life and their quiet, light-infused rituals, would join with the Valyrian solemnity and fiery ancestral rites brought by House Velaris. It would be a goodbye unlike any seen before, a farewell fit for the mother of a new dynasty. The ceremony was held in the Heartwood Sanctum, a newly consecrated space deep within the central, oldest parts of Ael'athar. It was an immense, naturally formed cavern, its walls luminous with ancient moss and veins of glittering crystal that pulsed with soft, internal light. Massive, ancient roots, as thick as lesser trees, crisscrossed the vaulted ceiling, their surfaces glowing with the subtle energy of our world. At its center stood a raised platform of polished living wood, which would serve as her final resting place. The air, though sorrowful, was clean and carried the faint scent of growing things and rare, sweet incense. A procession formed, solemn and silent. Leading it were my children, their faces etched with a profound, quiet grief that bespoke their unique heritage. Arion, holding himself with the solemn dignity of the eldest, walked beside his grandfather, Lord Maekar Baleres. Arion's emerald eyes, though clouded with tears, carried a steady resolve. Alern, introspective, moved with a controlled gravity, his amethyst gaze fixed straight ahead, while Elia, usually a whirlwind of motion, walked with a pained slowness, her head bowed, her brilliant silver hair a stark contrast to her somber demeanor. Behind them came Valerian, his heightened senses likely overwhelmed by the collective sorrow, and little Lorien, her small hand clutching Alaren's robes, tears streaming silently down her face, her connection to life feeling the profound emptiness of loss. Behind them came the Baleres kin, their silver hair a river of mourning, their Valyrian robes dark and unadorned. Lord Maekar, though visibly aged, bore his grief with the stoicism of a true dragonlord, his eyes often flickering towards us, his grandchildren, a bittersweet solace. Then came the Emerald Council, my wise advisors, their elven faces etched with sympathy and quiet understanding. And finally, the gathered populace, Ael'athar citizens, their ethereal beauty touched by sorrow, and the human settlers of the Sunstone Isles, their faces testament to the Empress who had embraced them. My own place was at the end of the procession, walking alone, absorbing the collective grief, but feeling my own loss with an ancient depth that no one could fully comprehend. My gaze remained fixed on Vala's form, borne on a litter woven from luminous living fibers, draped in an emerald cloth embroidered with silver dragons. As we reached the Heartwood Sanctum, the mournful, melodic strains of the Silvenar laments began. Voices, pure and ethereal, rose and fell, weaving a tapestry of sound that spoke of the cycle of life, the beauty of existence, and the gentle passage from one state to another. It was not a lament of despair, but one of profound reverence for the journey of a soul. Lord Maekar then stepped forward, his voice, though rough with emotion, clear and strong. He spoke in the ancient Valyrian tongue, praising Vala's spirit, her loyalty, her courage in embracing a future so different from her heritage. As he spoke, a single, deep mournful cry echoed from high above the sanctum, piercing through the stone ceiling. It was Viridian, Arion's dragon, a sound of shared grief that made the crystals in the walls hum. Other dragons, unseen, echoed the lament from afar, a low, sorrowful chorus. Then, Arion, Alern, and Elia stepped forward, each carrying a small, intricately carved wooden box. Arion placed a sprig of eternally blooming night lotus beside his mother. Alern, with a controlled tremor, placed a small, perfectly smooth river stone. Elia, with a deep, shuddering breath, set a single, vibrant sapphire, a gem she had personally coaxed from the earth. These were symbolic offerings, bridging their inherited powers with their deep, personal love. I then stepped onto the platform, my heart heavy, my gaze fixed on Valla. I knelt beside her, taking her hand one last time. Her skin was cool, but a faint, luminous warmth still seemed to emanate from her, a testament to the radiant spirit she possessed. I spoke to her, in a voice meant only for her, words that spanned the ages, words of love, gratitude, and a promise that her legacy, our children, would be cherished and guided for all eternity. Then came the final goodbye. At my gesture, Eldrin, the guardian of lore, and Gareth, the sentinel of the verdant shield, approached the bier. With solemn grace, they began a unique ritual of the Ael'athar. From beneath the platform, threads of luminous, flexible living wood, almost like fine, glowing vines, began to emerge. They gently wove around Vala's form, slowly enclosing her, creating a shimmering, organic cocoon. Simultaneously, a faint, almost invisible mist rose from the floor, carrying a subtle, sweet fragrance. As the living wood cocoon fully enclosed her, Lord Maekar, with a heavy heart, stepped forward with a small, unlit brazier. At his silent command, one of the Valyria's loremasters, using a small, ancient Valyrian glyph, ignited a small, controlled flame within the brazier. It was a symbolic pyre, a nod to the Valyrian tradition of fire and return to ash, yet here, it was contained, purified. The smoke that rose was thin, shimmering, and absorbed by the living wood above, carrying her essence into the very being of Eltharion. This was not a destruction, but a transformation. The living wood would slowly, reverently, absorb her, integrating her into the timeless essence of our world. Her physical form would become one with Eltharion, her spirit woven into the heart of the Emerald Empire she helped to build. It was a sacred merging, a final homecoming that honored both her Valyrian fire and her new, eternal home. The ceremony concluded with a long silence, broken only by the soft, almost imperceptible hum of the living city around us. My children stood beside me, their hands finding each other's, a silent testament to the strength of their bond forged in shared grief. Valla was gone, her mortal life concluded. But her legacy, my children, empowered by her blood and my own, lived on, ready to carry the torch of the Silvenar Empire into an unknowable future, forever marked by the memory of the Empress who bound dragons to elves, and brought a brilliant, if fleeting, human warmth into an ageless world. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 26. The Valion Academy and the Apprenticeship of Ages. Chapter 26. The Valion Academy and the Apprenticeship of Ages. Time: 47 AC 60 AC. Pav: Kaelen Silvanor. The void left by Empress Valla's passing was a silence that resonated deep within the ancient heart of Eltharion. Yet, grief, even for an immortal, must yield to the inexorable flow of time and the demands of future. For me, that future resided unequivocally in my children, the living embodiment of Valla's legacy and the promise of the Silvenar Empire's enduring strength. It was to honor her memory, to ensure that the unique fusion she had brought forth would thrive, that I conceived of the Valion Academy. This was to be more than a mere school, it was a living monument, a crucible for the next generation of leaders who would bridge worlds as Valla herself had. Its construction began swiftly in the years following her death, integrating seamlessly into the flowing, organic architecture of Eltharion. A new wing, stretching like a verdant arm from the central spires of the city, rose from meticulously guided living wood. Its grand halls were open to the sky in places, allowing sunlight to stream through crystalline leaves, yet possessed sturdy, Valyrian-influenced arches and domes, a subtle nod to the enduring strength and artistry of Valla's ancestral people. This blend of fluid elven design and solid human grandeur was a physical representation of the very curriculum it would house. The purpose of the Valion Academy was clear: to systematically cultivate individuals capable of navigating the complexities of both ancient elven wisdom and the ever-shifting tides of mortal politics. It would forge leaders who could command dragons and forests alike, interpret the language of stars and the intricacies of trade ledgers, and hold the peace with both arcane power and diplomatic skill. Its curriculum was unprecedented in the known world. Students, initially my own children, then select gifted individuals from the Valyria's kin and other allied houses, delved into Silvenar lore, millennia of Ael'athar history, philosophy, intricate natural magic, advanced plant manipulation, complex geomancy, subtle elemental control, profound studies of astronomy and stellar navigation, the deep ecology of Sothoryos, and the delicate art of long-term diplomatic strategy. Valyrian lore, the true history of the freehold, not the simplified tales of mortals, the nuances of dragonlore and their breeding, the high Valyrian language and its arcane secrets, the foundational principles of statecraft and military strategy from a human perspective, and the philosophical currents that shaped Westeros and Essos. Practical mastery, rigorous physical training blending elven grace with Valyrian martial prowess, advanced dragon riding, including aerial tactics and emergency procedures, in-depth studies of global trade, economics, and logistics, and the intricate dance of intercultural relations. The faculty was a carefully selected blend. Venerable high elders of the Ael'athar, whose wisdom spanned centuries, taught alongside the most learned of the Valyria's loremasters, master dragon riders, and even renowned scholars discreetly invited from the citadel or the free cities, lured by the promise of unparalleled knowledge. My children, ranging in age from 36 to 46 when the academy formally opened its gates in 47 AC, embarked upon their academic years with an earnestness that filled me with profound pride. Though considered young adults by Ael'athar standards, they were intellectually mature, each ready to absorb the vast knowledge the academy offered. Over the next 13 years, their unique gifts blossomed under this specialized tutelage. Kealen Silvanor, my eldest, already adept in plant control, focused intensely on the practical applications of his powers. He excelled in classes on bioarchitecture, learning to guide the growth of immense structures with foresight and precision, experimenting with new forms of sustainable city planning beyond even Eltharian. His understanding of large-scale ecological management became unparalleled, studying how to restore blighted lands and create self-sustaining ecosystems. In strategy, he possessed a calm, patient mind, seeing conflicts like complex, growing organisms. His dragon, Viridian, often rested near the open-air classrooms, her emerald scales blending with the surrounding foliage, an ever-present symbol of Arian's mastery over nature. He carried himself with the quiet authority of an heir, his pointy ears a sharp contrast to his noble, Valyrian features. Kealen Silvanor, introspective and deeply studious, found his true calling in the Academy's vast libraries of ancient texts and the more challenging aspects of geomancy. He delved into the histories of old Valyria with a passion, seeking to understand the arcane secrets that lay beyond Dragonfire. His earth-shaping abilities were honed to an astonishing degree of finesse. He could now not only raise mountains but carve intricate, stable tunnels through their hearts, or create vast, self-irrigating irrigation systems. His rapid regeneration was often tested during rigorous physical drills and exploration of dangerous geological formations, where he would push himself, knowing his body would swiftly mend. He proved particularly adept at understanding seismic patterns and channeling the raw energy of the earth, a skill with profound defensive implications. His pointy ears often peeked from behind his long, silver hair as he buried himself in scrolls. Elias Silvanor, my radiant daughter, proved to be a prodigy. Her inherited mastery over plants, earth, and rapid regeneration made her a truly exceptional student across all disciplines. She effortlessly integrated concepts, seeing the interconnectedness where others saw separation. Her physical training was a breathtaking display of fluid strength and agility, and her dragon, Aurora, mirrored her adaptability, often changing hues to reflect Elia's mood or the environment they traversed. Elia excelled in classes on combined elemental magic, weaving spells that could grow healing herbs from stone, or cause defensive thorns to erupt from the ground in an instant. Her spirited nature was now channeled into a disciplined pursuit of knowledge, her pointy ears seeming to listen to the whispers of every form of magic. Valion Silvanor, with his keen senses and restless energy, found his niche in strategy, reconnaissance, and martial arts. His enhanced hearing allowed him to detect the faintest whisper of a distant conversation, while his keen eyesight could pick out details invisible to others. He became a master of stealth and evasion, his movements so silent that he seemed to flow through the very air. He absorbed military tactics like a sponge, his mind capable of instantly assessing terrain, enemy movements, and potential ambushes. He and his sleek black dragon, Umbra, trained endlessly in aerial maneuvers, their dives and turns a blur against the sky, becoming the Empire's unparalleled scouts and quick reaction force. His pointy ears twitched constantly, absorbing every nuance of his surroundings. And Kealen Silvanor, my youngest, embraced the healing arts and the subtle power of water with a profound dedication. Her empathetic spirit made her a natural in courses on medicine, diplomacy, and interspecies communication. She learned to purify vast quantities of water, to draw moisture from the driest air, and to use her unique healing touch to mend not just physical wounds but also emotional distress. She demonstrated a remarkable ability to calm frightened animals and soothe agitated individuals, her presence a balm. Her graceful azure dragon, Aquaze, often accompanied her to the Academy's vast healing gardens, where they would share a tranquil bond, Lorian's pointy ears often adorned with small, shimmering water droplets she had conjured. As the academic years progressed, from 47 AC to 60 AC, I watched them with a quiet pride. The Valion Academy, born from my grief, had become a vibrant testament to Valla's enduring spirit. Each of my children, while distinct, carried her brilliance and a unique blend of her heritage and mine. Their Valyrian blood, once a mark of their distinctiveness from the pure Ael'athar, was now seamlessly integrated, woven into their very being, granting them strengths and perspectives previously unknown to my people. Their pointy ears, a constant, subtle reminder of their elven lineage, were seen not as a separation, but as a bridge to an even deeper form of power and understanding. They were growing, learning, and preparing. The world beyond Eltharion continued its tumultuous dance, but within my empire, a new generation of unparalleled leaders was being meticulously forged. They were my living legacy, Empress Valla's eternal testament, and the future guardians of the Silvenar Empire, ready to face whatever trials the millennia might bring. The children's academic journey. Arian 47 AC, 46 years old, 60 AC, 59 years old. Focus on leadership, diplomacy, advanced plant control applications e.g., bioarchitecture, large-scale ecological management. His role is the heir. Elern 47 AC, 44 years old, 60 AC, 57 years old. Focus on arcane Valyrian texts, earth-shaping for infrastructure, perhaps exploring the depths of Sothoryos' geology. His regenerative abilities in training. Elia 47 AC, 41 years old, 60 AC, 54 years old. Her multifaceted talents making her a prodigious student across all fields. Her dragon Aurora's adaptability. Her energy channeled into mastering complex magical forms. Valerian 47 AC, 38 years old, 60 AC, 51 years old. His enhanced senses making him excel in strategy, observation, and perhaps tracking or stealth. Martial arts and scouting. Lorian 47 AC, 36 years old, 60 AC, 49 years old. Her affinity for healing and water magic applied to medicine, agriculture, and perhaps soothing diplomatic tensions. Her empathetic nature. #Note. The water magic is her natural affinity, not from her father or mother. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 27. The Conciliator and the Emerald Prince. Chapter 27. The Conciliator and the Emerald Prince. Time. 75 AC. Pav. Arian Silvanor and Jaehaerys I Targaryen. 74 years had passed since my birth, yet to my Ael'athar senses, I was still but a young man, though one now steeped in the knowledge and responsibilities of the Silvenar Empire. The Valion Academy had forged us, the children of Kealen and Valla, into potent forces, each a living bridge between our ancient elven heritage and the fiery Valyrian legacy. My training in diplomacy, in the delicate dance of interkingdom relations, was now to be tested on the grandest stage, the newly unified realm of Westeros. My father, Emperor Kaelen, had deemed it time. After decades of prosperous, yet largely detached, trade relations, it was prudent to formally greet King Jaehaerys I Targaryen, the so-called Conciliator, a ruler renowned for his wisdom and long reign. This was not a negotiation of terms, but a gesture of respect, a quiet acknowledgement of the New World Order, and a subtle display of the Empire's continued vitality. I would lead the delegation. The journey from the emerald heart of Sothoryos to the sprawling, stone-clad capital of Westeros was a study in contrasts. Eltharion hummed with the quiet vitality of living wood, its structures breathing, its light organic and diffused. King's Landing, even at its best, was a cacophony of human activity, its red keep a formidable mountain of red stone, cold and unyielding compared to the fluid warmth of our own architecture. I had flown ahead on Viridian, my magnificent green dragon, whose scales seemed to shimmer with the essence of growing things. She was a wonder, even to the small folk of Westeros who had witnessed the Targaryen dragons, her movements impossibly graceful, her presence radiating a calm strength. The rest of my delegation, comprised of Baleri's advisors and discreet Silvenar guards, followed by carrying diplomatic gifts of unparalleled rarity. The meeting was set for the following day, in the newly completed throne room of the Red Keep. The Iron Throne itself was a grotesque masterpiece, jagged and cruel, a testament to the brutal conquest that had forged the Seven Kingdoms. It seemed to exude the residual fear and pain of 1,000 swords. My pointy ears, usually hidden beneath careful strands of silver hair, were subtly exposed today, a deliberate choice. I was here as a Silvenar prince, not merely a foreign dignitary. My attire was the formal raiment of our empire, robes of deep emerald silk, embroidered with silver threads that mimic the flowing lines of our living cities, adorned with a single, flawless amethyst stone, a tribute to my mother. King Jaehaerys sat upon the throne, a man in his prime, his silver hair long, his purple eyes sharp and intelligent, bearing the weight of his crown with an unruffled calm. He possessed an aura of quiet authority, a sagacity that was palpable even across the vast hall. Beside him stood his queen, Alysanne, equally serene and respected. And around them, a handful of their children, among them the Crown Prince Aemon, and his younger brother, Prince Balon, both already renowned dragon riders. Their presence underscored the importance of this meeting. Prince Arian Silvanor, Jaehaerys' voice was deep, resonant, and calm. Welcome to King's Landing. We have long held deep respect for your emperor and the prosperity your empire brings to our shores. Your Grace, I responded, my voice carrying the subtle, melodic cadence of the Ael'athar tongue, which my interpreters then rendered into flawless common. The Emperor Kaelen sends his felicitations on your long and wise reign, and extends his enduring goodwill to the unified realm of Westeros. It is our hope that the harmonious trade established decades ago will continue to flourish, bringing mutual benefit to both our peoples. After the formal pleasantries and the presentation of gifts, luminous, living woods that shed their own soft light, finely woven Silvenar silks that felt like spun moonlight, and gems of impossible clarity, King Jaehaerys's curiosity, well known throughout the realms, came to the fore. His purple eyes fixed on me, keen and assessing. Prince Aerion, he began, his voice taking on a more personal tone, your empire remains a realm of much fascination to us. Its wonders are whispered by merchants across the seas. We know you are a people of ancient wisdom, with knowledge of arts long lost to us. Tell me, if you would, of the lands of Sothoryos under your emperor's dominion. What marvels lie hidden there? I chose my words carefully, revealing enough to intrigue, but retaining the mystique that served us well. Sothoryos, your grace, is a continent of immense, untamed beauty. Under His Imperial Majesty's guidance, we have cultivated vast swaths of it, transforming wilderness into sustainable, thriving lands. Our cities, like Eltharion, are not built from quarried stone, but grown from the very earth and living wood, breathing structures that adapt and grow with us. The air is always clean, the water pure, and the natural world thrives in harmony with our presence. I spoke of our unparalleled botanical gardens, where flora from across the world flourished under our care, yielding exotic medicines and unique resources. I mentioned our deep reverence for the natural cycle, our understanding of the Earth's very heartbeat. We learn from the world, your grace, rather than simply conquering it. This allows for technologies and understandings that appear miraculous to those who rely only on steel and stone. I subtly gestured to my pointy ears, a quiet emphasis on my distinct lineage. Our people have long lifespans, allowing for generations of accumulated wisdom in every craft, every art. Prince Aemon, a powerful and curious man, leaned forward. And the dragons, Prince. We hear tales that House Baleres, famed dragonlords, are now allied with your emperor. Do their beasts also fly over your skies? Indeed, Prince Aemon, I confirmed, meeting his gaze directly. The noble House Baleres, through a deep and enduring alliance forged with Empress Valla's union to my father, are a fundamental part of the Silvenar Empire. Their dragons fly as freely and proudly over the Sunstone Isles and the Emerald Heart of Sothoryos as they do over Dragonstone, bound to our empire by mutual respect and shared destiny. Their might is now ours, and ours, theirs. It was a statement, delivered calmly, but its weight was unmistakable. The meeting continued smoothly for hours. We discussed trade routes, the shifting political landscapes of Essos, and the intricacies of long-distance communication. Jaehaerys was a keen listener, asking precise, insightful questions, clearly weighing every word. His children, particularly Prince Aemon and Prince Balon, observed me with a mixture of awe and competitive curiosity, their eyes occasionally drifting to the window, as if imagining Viridion's vast wings in the sky above King's Landing. By the end, a renewed agreement for trade was formalized, and a precedent set for future diplomatic exchanges. Pav, King Jaehaerys I Targaryen. The doors of the throne room closed with a resonant thud, sealing away the last of the Silvenar delegation. I leaned back on the unforgiving blades of the Iron Throne, a sigh escaping me that had nothing to do with weariness and everything to do with profound contemplation. My queen, Alysanne, moved to my side, her hand resting gently on my shoulder. Well, husband, she asked, her voice soft, knowing my thoughts were already a whirlwind. What do you make of our Emerald Prince? Kaelen Silvanor, I mused, the name tasting strange on my tongue. He is every bit as remarkable as the whispers suggest. Ageless grace, that peculiar silvery hair, and those eyes, emerald, like the deepest forests. But it's not just his appearance. There's a stillness about him, a profound calm, yet beneath it, a power that even my dragons might acknowledge. He moved through this hall as if it were a garden, not a place of cut stone and sharp edges. My gaze drifted to Aemon and Balon, who still lingered, their faces alight with fascination. It was clear Aerion and his dragon had left a powerful impression. A Dragonlord prince, I continued, more to myself than to Alysanne. Not merely a prince, but a Dragonlord. Their alliance with the Baleres is even more profound than we had suspected. It means the Silvenar Empire now commands dragons, a dozen of them, if the whispers are true, possibly more, alongside their own enigmatic powers. Alisan nodded. He spoke of cities grown from living wood. Think of it, Jaehaerys. A city that breathes. What other wonders did they possess? And those ears, husband. Truly like something from an old fable. Indeed, he spoke of ancient wisdom, of living in harmony with nature, yet their wealth is immense, their influence global. They are not like the Summer Islanders, or the peaceful folk of Yeti. There is a steel to them, subtle but undeniable. That statement about interfering with their trade, it was not a threat, but a simple, cold declaration of fact. A nation that speaks like that, and owns a dozen dragons, cannot be taken lightly. I reflected on his answers. He was careful, diplomatic, revealing just enough to satisfy curiosity but guarding their deepest secrets. The sheer age of his people, their different perception of time, was chilling in its implications. To them, my burgeoning kingdom, my 1,000-year dynasty, was but a brief flicker. They respect us, Alisan, I said, a rare smile touching my lips. They respect the peace we've forged. And they seek to profit from it, as do we. It is a mutually beneficial arrangement. But this visit was more than trade. It was a formal acknowledgement of my reign, and a subtle warning that Westeros is not the only power in the world, nor the only one with dragons. No, the Silvenar Empire is something else entirely. A sleeping giant, perhaps, one that has now stirred, and whose children ride beasts of fire. It is wise to have them as friends. I rose from the Iron Throne, the cold steel pressing into my back. This was a day of import. Aegon had unified Westeros. Now, a new player had stepped out of the shadows, and their hand was a powerful one. I would need to ensure the lines of communication remained open with Eltharion. The world was growing smaller, and the wise would understand the value of every alliance, especially with a people whose very nature defied the relentless march of time. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 28. The Scholar Prince and the Dragon's Fall. Chapter 28. The Scholar Prince and the Dragon's Fall. Time: 75 AC 87 AC. Pav. Kaelen Silvanor. My diplomatic visit to King's Landing had concluded successfully, cementing the quiet understanding between the Silvenar Empire and the burgeoning Targaryen dynasty. Yet, my thirst for knowledge, nurtured by my father's vast wisdom and the comprehensive curriculum of the Valion Academy, remained unsated. Westeros, though seemingly rudimentary in its understanding of living magic, held millennia of recorded history, of human philosophy, and a methodical approach to knowledge that intrigued me. So, instead of returning directly to Eltharion, I sought a different path for the next 5 years, the citadel of Aldtown. It was a stark contrast to the organic serenity of my home. The citadel was a sprawling, ancient fortress of grey stone, its walls imbued not with the gentle hum of life, but with the weighty silence of countless tomes and the clinking of steel links. I presented myself as Prince Kaelen Silvanor, a scholar of the Emerald Empire, eager to exchange knowledge, to observe, and to learn. My presence, a dragon-lord prince with pointy ears and an ageless countenance, caused no small stir among the maesters. They were a fascinating lot, these men of the citadel. Dedicated, methodical, their minds vast storehouses of accumulated human knowledge. They knew of remedies, of stars, of histories, of the very fabric of the world, all catalogued, weighed, and measured. I spent my days in the vast libraries, absorbing their texts on Westerosi history, on the nuances of human warfare, on their understanding of the stars and the seasons. I engaged in debates with archmaesters, patiently listening to their theories on magic, rarely correcting their misconceptions, but often subtly guiding their thought processes towards broader, more interconnected conclusions. They, in turn, were endlessly fascinated by me. They studied my physical form, subtly at first, then with bolder attempts. My extended lifespan, my precise control over plants, my rapid regeneration, which I largely kept hidden, revealing only minor feats that could be attributed to unusual physiology, baffled them. They pressed me on the nature of Eltharion, the methods of growing living cities, the precise applications of natural magic. I shared theory, philosophy, the concept of harmony with the earth, but never the precise equations of power, never the true depths of Ael'athar ability. My pointy ears, for all their attempts at discreet observation, remained an unsolvable enigma to their anatomical studies, confirming to them my otherworldly nature. The 5 years were invaluable. I gained an unparalleled understanding of Westerosi society, its strengths, its vulnerabilities, and its unique, often brutal, history. I learned their perspectives, their limitations, and their brilliance. I forged quiet connections with some of the more open-minded archmaesters, who recognized that my presence, even if mysterious, offered a glimpse into knowledge beyond their comprehension. By 80 AC, my time in the Citadel complete, I left Aldtown, richer in understanding, and made my way once more to King's Landing. The subsequent 7 years saw me move between King's Landing and various diplomatic assignments, though my base remained often near the Targaryen court. My father, Kaelen, saw the benefit of maintaining a close, personal tie, a visible presence in the capital of the Seven Kingdoms. I honed my skills, not just in diplomacy, but in understanding the delicate intricacies of human ambition, loyalty, and betrayal. Viridian, my magnificent green dragon, became a familiar, comforting sight in the skies over the Blackwater, often seen soaring with the Targaryen dragons, her very presence a testament to our enduring alliance. Then came the year 87 AC, a year that would irrevocably alter the course of my life, and perhaps, the future of the royal houses of Westeros. It was a night of reckless revelry. The Red Keep hummed with the loud, boisterous sounds of a feast, celebrating some minor victory in the stepstones. I preferred the quiet solitude of the Dragon Pit, the ancient, colossal dome that housed the Targaryen dragons when they were not ranging free. I found a certain majesty in the raw power contained within those walls, a kinship with the scaled beasts. Suddenly, a piercing shriek ripped through the night, a sound of agony and terror, followed by a guttural roar that vibrated through the very stones of the pit. It was a dragon's cry, panicked and uncontrolled. My senses, honed at the Valion Academy and sharpened by my time in Sothoryos' wild jungles, immediately went on alert. I heard the frantic shouts of guards, the sickening crack of breaking stone, and a high-pitched, desperate scream that was distinctly human. I looked up. High above, silhouetted against the stormy, moonless sky, was a dragon, a young, inexperienced beast, its flight erratic and uncontrolled, clearly panicked. And tumbling from its back, a tiny, rapidly falling figure. Even from this distance, I recognized the flash of silver hair. It was a Targaryen princess. My mind raced. The distance was too great for even Viridian to intercept in time if I mounted her. There was no time for deliberation. Instinct took over. Viridian, I commanded, not with words, but with a surge of mental will that flowed through our bond. My dragon, sensing the urgency, launched herself from her perch with a roar that shook the pit, her immense wings beating the air with furious speed. Meanwhile, I sprinted from the pit, calculating the trajectory of the falling figure with impossible precision. She was plummeting towards the jagged rocks of the cliffs overlooking the Blackwater. There was no direct path. With a powerful surge of my earth-shaping abilities, I caused a spire of rock to erupt from the cliff face directly in her path, just enough to break her fall, hoping to cushion her impact. But that alone wouldn't save her from the unforgiving stone. As I neared the edge, the wind whipping around me, the falling princess seemed to hang for a split second in midair, a silver comet against the blackness. I leapt, a desperate, impossible leap, my muscles coiling, propelled by my inner strength. My hand shot out, and I caught her, a slight, frail weight. The impact jarred my bones, but my rapid regeneration had already begun knitting the micro tears in my muscles as quickly as they formed. It was Princess Visora Targaryen, daughter of King Jaehaerys and Queen Alysanne. Her eyes, wide with terror, were the same deep violet as her mother's, but filled with shock and fear. Her dragon, panicked and riderless, veered away, screeching into the storm. I landed heavily on the precarious rock spire I had raised, cushioning her carefully against my chest. Her body was trembling, a faint scent of wine clinging to her. She looked up at me, her eyes still dilated with terror, but slowly, recognition dawned. Prince Arion, she whispered, her voice fragile. Are you harmed, princess? I asked, my voice calm, though my heart, even my elven heart, hammered in my chest with the adrenaline of the near disaster. Within moments, Viridian was there, landing with a soft rumble on the narrow spire, her luminous green eyes fixed on Visora with concern. Guards, alerted by the dragon's distress and my own sudden departure, arrived, their torches bobbing in the stormy night. They found me, an elven prince with pointy ears stark against his silver hair, holding a terrified Targaryen princess on a newly conjured rock spire, a magnificent green dragon watchful behind us. The incident was chaos, quickly subdued. Visora was shaken but miraculously unharmed, a testament to my swift intervention and the subtle strength of my powers. She was quickly taken back to the Red Keep by her relieved guards, while I returned to my chambers, the echoes of her scream and the feel of her fragile weight still lingering. My mind, usually so composed, felt a strange mix of exhilaration and protectiveness. Princess Visora, her beauty was undeniable, but it was the sheer vulnerability, the near tragedy, that had awakened something within me, a protective instinct far stronger than simple admiration. I had saved her life. And as the storm raged outside, I knew that this unexpected act of heroism had just tied my fate, and that of the Silvenar Empire, to the Dragon Kings of Westeros in a way even my father could not have entirely foreseen. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 29, Favors and Foundations. Chapter 29, Favors and Foundations. Time, 87 AC 88 AC. Pav, Arian Silvanor and Kaelen Silvanor. The sun, unfiltered and strong, streamed through the high windows of the Red Keep's royal solar as I stood before King Jaehaerys I. The morning after Princess Visora's near-fatal fall had brought a palpable tension to the castle, quickly replaced by immense relief. Visora herself, pale but unharmed, stood beside her father, her violet eyes meeting mine with a mixture of awe and fervent gratitude. Prince Arian, King Jaehaerys began, his voice deeper than usual, tinged with genuine emotion. Words seem insufficient to convey my thanks. You saved my daughter's life. A life I thought, for a terrifying moment, was lost to the storm and the folly of youth. His gaze, usually so shrewd and assessing, now held a profound, personal debt. The Targaryens do not forget such a debt. Name your boon, Prince. Anything within my power to grant. I bowed my head slightly, maintaining the formal dignity of my position. Your Grace, there is no need for boons or rewards. It was a matter of swift intervention, a duty to prevent tragedy. Any knight, any true man, would have done the same, had they the means. My words were humble, but my quiet strength, and the subtle resonance in my voice, hinted at the unique means I possessed. I glanced at Visora. Her beauty, even in her pallor, was striking. There was a raw, human vulnerability about her that, for reasons I was still unraveling, stirred something deep within my ancient heart. She offered a small, hesitant smile, a glimmer of relief in her eyes. Nonetheless, Prince, Jaehaerys insisted, his brow furrowed, a life for a life. Consider it offered, should you ever have need. Your Grace is too kind, I replied. However, my current path leads me homeward. My long sojourn in Westeros and at the citadel has concluded. It is time for me to return to Sothoryos, to His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Kaelen. I leave knowing that the bond between our two realms has only strengthened, and that the peace we both cherish will continue to flourish. Jaehaerys nodded, a faint understanding in his eyes. He knew that one such as I did not linger indefinitely. Then, Prince, may your journey be swift and safe. The gates of King's Landing, and the hospitality of the Iron Throne, will always be open to you, and to your esteemed Emperor. After a final, respectful bow, I departed, the gratitude in Jaehaerys' gaze a potent, unspoken asset for the future. Visora remained silent, her eyes following me until I passed from sight. The warmth in her gaze was something new, a quiet acknowledgement of a connection forged in the crucible of a near death. My return to Ael'athar would not be direct. Emperor Kaelen had one final, crucial task for me before I could report on my decade-long journey. A visit to Braavos, the free city of mysteries, wealth, and the silent, all-seeing power of the Iron Bank. My father, in his foresight, sought to elevate the Silvenar Empire's financial standing and influence on the global stage. He wished to become a key holder of the Iron Bank. The journey to Braavos, flying on Viridian, was swift. The transition from the rigid stone and political intrigue of Westeros to the bustling, canal-laced labyrinth of Braavos was striking. The city was a monument to commerce, its myriad waterways teeming with ships from every corner of the known world, its air alive with 1,000 languages and the clamor of trade. Even the colossal titan of Braavos, grim and watchful over the harbor, seemed less a god and more a stern banker. The Iron Bank itself was a fortress of a different kind, austere, impregnable, and radiating an almost palpable aura of immense, ancient wealth. Its faceless facade, devoid of ornament, spoke of discretion and unyielding principle. I was ushered through labyrinthine corridors by silent, robed figures, until I reached a private chamber, sparsely furnished but exuding an undeniable power. Seated behind a plain, massive oak table were three individuals. The first keyholder, an elderly man with eyes that seemed to have seen every coin in the world, a young, shrewd-looking woman of obvious intelligence, and a third, whose face was obscured by deep shadows, lending them an unnerving air of anonymity. These were the true masters of the Iron Bank, the unassailable pillars of the world's economy. Prince Kaelen Silvanor, the first keyholder stated, his voice dry as parchment, your presence is noted. We understand your esteemed emperor, Kaelen Silvanor, seeks a deeper engagement with the Iron Bank. He wishes to become a keyholder. I met their unblinking gazes, my own elven composure unyielding. Indeed, His Imperial Majesty understands the unique position of the Iron Bank. He seeks not merely financial services, but strategic partnership, a deeper integration into the global economic currents that only the Iron Bank can provide. In return, the Silvenar Empire offers unparalleled stability, vast, untapped resources, and a long-term vision that aligns with the very principles of prudent, eternal investment. I spoke of the Empire's control over vast stretches of Sothoryos, regions rich in unique minerals, rare flora, and unmatched agricultural potential. I described our living cities, our self-sustaining economies, our unparalleled trade networks that flowed unimpeded even through the most turbulent regions of Essos. I subtly hinted at the deep knowledge and long lifespans of my people, allowing for millennia-long planning and unwavering commitment. Our prosperity is not subject to the whims of mortal kings or short-sighted ambition, I stated, my pointy ears a subtle, yet stark, statement of my difference. It is rooted in the very earth, guided by a wisdom that predates much of recorded history. Such stability, such guaranteed returns over centuries, is a unique proposition, even for the Iron Bank. The discussion was protracted, meticulous. They probed our resource management, our security, our internal governance. They asked about the Valyria's alliance, the dragons under our sway, understanding the immense power that added to our credit. I answered with candor where prudence allowed, and with polite mystery where necessary. They did not grant Kaelen's request immediately, the Iron Bank never moved without exhaustive deliberation. But their interest was palpable. The first keyholder's final words were, Prince Kaelen, your emperor's proposal is substantial. We will deliberate. A direct envoy will be dispatched to Ael'athar within the year to conduct further, deeper assessments. Be assured, the Iron Bank is always keen on alliances that promise enduring prosperity. The groundwork had been laid. The door to unparalleled financial power had been opened. The journey home to Sothoryos was a profound relief. As Viridian soared over the familiar emerald canopy of my homeland, I felt the tension of the human world begin to melt away, replaced by the deep, resonant hum of Ael'athar, a living welcome home. I found my father, Emperor Kaelen, in his private meditation grove, the ancient trees seeming to breathe with his every breath. He opened his emerald eyes as I approached, a flicker of paternal pride in their depths. Kaelen, he greeted, his voice calm, you return. And with much to tell, I sense. I knelt before him, then rose as he gestured. Indeed, Father, the diplomatic ties with King Jaehaerys are strong. He is a wise ruler, and our relationship promises to be one of enduring peace and mutual benefit. I recounted the details of my official visit, the discussions, the formal agreements. Then, I moved to the unexpected. And I had the unforeseen opportunity to save Princess Visora Targaryen from a perilous fall. Her father, the king, extended his deepest gratitude and offered a boon in return. I believe it solidifies their trust and respect for our empire beyond mere agreements. I omitted, for now, the more personal stirring in my heart. That was a matter for another, more private, discussion. Kaelen listened, a faint smile touching his lips. A life saved, a debt incurred. Such acts, when truly selfless, weave bonds stronger than treaties. It was well done, my son. Finally, I spoke of bravos. The Iron Bank received me. They are cautious, as expected, but intrigued by your proposal for keyholder status. I presented our case for unparalleled stability and eternal returns. They will dispatch an envoy to Ael'athar within the year for a deeper assessment. My father's eyes, deep and ancient, gleamed with satisfaction. Excellent, Kaelen. The Iron Bank is the heart of global commerce. To truly guide the currents of this world, one must not only command natural power and political influence, but also possess the key to its immense wealth. You have laid the foundation for us to do precisely that. He paused, his gaze meeting mine, and I saw a quiet pride that warmed me to my core. You have accomplished much, my son. More than even I fully anticipated in your little visit to Westeros. You have proven yourself not just a diplomat, but a true architect of the Empire's future. The warmth of his words, the quiet acknowledgement of my efforts, settled within me. I had navigated the treacherous waters of human courts, earned the respect of a king, and opened the door to immense financial power. Yet, even as I spoke of these triumphs, a singular image persisted in my mind, the startled violet eyes of Princess Visora, and the sudden, profound awakening of my own ancient heart. That, I knew, was a conversation for another day, a new, complex challenge that lay ahead. Aerion has reported back to Kaelen, securing diplomatic and financial inroads. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 30. The Wisdom of Ages, the Freedom of Hearts. Chapter 30. The Wisdom of Ages, the Freedom of Hearts. Time, 89 AC. Pav, Kaelen Silvanor. The scent of a Sothoryos dawn, a symphony of blooming orchids and dewy, ancient wood, filled the imperial gardens. After Aerion's return, and the subtle yet profound shifts he had set in motion in Westeros and Braavos, I felt the familiar rhythm of our family life reassert itself. It was a rhythm I cherished, especially now, with Vala's absence a constant, quiet hum beneath the vibrant tapestry of Ael'athar. I had gathered my children in the central grove, a place where the living trees formed a natural amphitheater, their branches interwoven with luminous crystals that caught the morning light. Aerion, Alern, Elia, Valerian, and Lorien sat before me, their unique blend of elven grace and Valyrian fire evident in every line of their features, in their attentive pointy ears, in the knowing depths of their eyes. They were no longer mere children, but young adults, each formidable in their own right, each carrying the weight of a powerful destiny. The recent events had placed the concept of companionship, of deep personal connection, forefront in my mind. Aerion's unexpected encounter with Princess Visora, though brief, had resonated with an intensity I recognized. It was time for a conversation that spanned beyond the strategic alliances and the vast currents of empires, a conversation about the profound decisions of the heart. My children, I began, my voice soft, resonating with the subtle energies of the grove, we have spoken at length of duties, of the Empire's future, of your training, and of the unique powers you wield. But today, I wish to speak of something equally, if not more, vital to a long and fulfilled existence, companionship, partnership, and marriage. A subtle shift went through them. Alaren's thoughtful gaze became more introspective. Elia's usually vibrant energy softened, her eyes perhaps dreaming. Valerian, ever observant, glanced instinctively at Aerion, a silent question passing between them. Aerion, for his part, maintained his composure, but I saw a faint, almost imperceptible tension in his shoulders, a slight shift in his posture. You, my children, I continued, letting my gaze fall equally on each of them, are unlike most others in this world. Your lifespans stretch beyond the comprehension of mortals, beyond the fleeting centuries of kingdoms. You will live a very, very long time. This means your choices in companionship are not fleeting decisions, but bonds that can span eras. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. Because of this, some might believe that your unions should be purely strategic, designed to secure alliances, to merge houses for power. Indeed, such practices are common among mortal kings, who offer their daughters as bargaining chips, or demand princes for political leverage. My eyes met Aerion's briefly, a silent acknowledgement of the very world he had just returned from. Let me be clear, I am not like other kings offering their daughters for alliances, nor demanding a prince solely for power. A palpable sense of relief, subtle though it was, rippled through them. My greatest desire for you, I continued, is not merely that you serve the Empire well, but that you live lives of profound joy and purpose. Should you meet someone, a soul that resonates with your own, a heart that calls to yours, whether they be of our kin, of the Bellari's line, or even from the mortal realms, do not hesitate to open your heart. Do not let the burden of your long lives, or the expectations of political gain, extinguish the flame of genuine connection. Love, true love, is a power in itself, one that can sustain you through the vastness of ages, and one that gives meaning to all other accomplishments. Elia, ever the most direct of my daughters, spoke up, her sapphire eyes bright with curiosity. Father, she asked, her voice clear, then what of your own marriage? To mother, was it born of love, or of strategy? A warmth, tinged with a familiar, gentle ache, spread through my ancient heart. This was the question I knew would come, a question I was ready to answer. I looked at the tranquil pond in the grove, reflecting the emerald light of the surrounding trees, and saw Vala's face in the shimmering water. That, I said, my voice softer now, infused with deep memory, was a very special union, my dearest Elia. It was, indeed, unique. When I journeyed to the Sunstone Isles, when I sought Empress Valla's hand, it was, at its very core, an alliance marriage. My children listened intently, knowing this was a rare glimpse into a deeply personal part of my eternal existence. Our peoples had long been separate, I explained. The Ael'athar, bound to Sothoryos, to the land and the ancient ways. The Valiries, refugees from a world consumed by fire, clinging to their dragons and their heritage. An alliance between us was crucial for the long-term stability and strength of both our peoples, for the very future of the Silvenar Empire I envisioned. Her hand was offered, and I accepted, for the betterment of all. There was respect, a mutual understanding of our burdens and our hopes. I paused, a faint smile touching my lips as memories of Vala's fierce intellect and vibrant spirit flooded me. But what began as a strategic partnership, as a necessary bond for the Empire, swiftly transformed. With every shared counsel, every moment spent together, every challenge faced, and especially with the joy of each of your births, it ended in love. A profound, enduring love that transcended strategy, a connection that rooted itself deeper than any alliance could mandate. Your mother, Valla, was the very heart of that love, a fierce flame that illuminated my long existence. She taught me that even for the ageless, the bond forged in genuine affection, in shared life, is the most precious treasure. A quiet fell upon the grove, filled only by the gentle rustle of leaves. My children absorbed my words, their expressions a mixture of understanding, newfound appreciation for their parents' unique journey, and perhaps, a quiet hope for their own futures. Arion, who had remained silent throughout, finally met my gaze. His emerald eyes, so like my own, held a newfound depth, a subtle acknowledgement of the truth of my words and the unspooled path that lay before him. He did not speak, but the silent communication between us was clear. He had found a similar spark, a kindred spirit that defied the logical dictates of alliances, and he now had his father's blessing to explore it. This was my gift to them, my legacy of fatherly wisdom, the freedom to choose, to love, to embrace the fleeting beauty of a mortal bond, even knowing the inevitable sorrow it would bring. For life, even an eternal one, was meant to be lived with a full, open heart, embracing every joy, every sorrow, every connection. Kaelen has given his children valuable advice on love and marriage, and Arion has received a subtle blessing for his feelings. #Note. Regarding Arion's interest in Visora, details in the next chapters. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 31. A Debt of Life and a Stirring Heart. Chapter 31. A Debt of Life and a Stirring Heart. Time, 87 AC. Pav, Princess Visora Targaryen. The Red Keep, for all its stone and steel, felt oddly muted in the days following my disgrace and salvation. The clanking of distant armor, the murmur of servants, the very laughter from the feasting halls, it all seemed muffled, as if my ears were still ringing from the wind that had nearly claimed me. My body ached, not from injury, but from the raw shock of it all, the terrifying plummet, the breath-stealing impact that never came, and then, him. Prince Kealen Silvanor. My memories of the night were a terrifying blur, punctuated by flashes of searing clarity. The wine, the thrill of Merix's daughter, scorn, soaring drunk above the city, the sudden lurch, the wind tearing at my gown, the sickening certainty of the ground rushing up. And then, a shadow, impossibly fast, a hand, strong and unyielding, plucking me from the very jaws of death. When I had looked up, dizzy and disoriented, into his face, I had seen emerald eyes, unnaturally bright even in the stormy night. His silver hair, usually so meticulously coiffed, was wild around a face that was both utterly calm and intensely focused. And those ears, pointy and elegant, unlike any human's, lending him an otherworldly grace even as he held me, a trembling, terrified heap, in his arms. In the days since, trapped in the quiet confines of my chambers, receiving visits from my relieved parents and stern maesters, my mind had replayed the moment endlessly. The sheer impossible audacity of it. The leap. The way the rock spire had risen from the cliff face, like the earth itself had bent to his will. The enormous green dragon, Viridian, landing as silently as a cat, her luminous eyes fixed on me with a strange, intelligent concern. I had met Prince Arion once before, during his diplomatic visit years ago. He was handsome then, in that aloof, elven way, with a quiet dignity that set him apart from the boisterous lords and boorish knights of my father's court. He had spoken eloquently of his emperor, of living cities and boundless Sothoryos forests. I'd found him intriguing, like a rare, beautiful gem. But now he was etched into my very soul. He was the man who had pulled me back from the void. My life at court, for all its gilded cages, often felt stifling. The constant pressure to be a proper princess, to smile, to charm, to endure endless suitors chosen for political gain. I had sought freedom in reckless abandon, in wine and the thrill of dragonflight, chafing against the rigid expectations. Yet, in that plummet, I had found no freedom, only terror. It was Arion, the mysterious prince from the ends of the world, who had granted me true freedom, the freedom to live. He was so utterly different. Not just his strange, beautiful ears, or his skin that seemed to glow, or his eyes that held ancient depths. It was the way he carried himself, a stillness and a grace that spoke of power contained, not flaunted. My brothers, for all their strength and dragon-riding prowess, were loud, boisterous, often predictable. Arion was like a deep, still pool, hiding unimaginable currents beneath its surface. My father, the king, had thanked him profusely, offering a boon. And Arion, in his infuriating, elegant way, had simply refused. A duty, he'd called it. Any man, but no other man could have done what he did. No other man could have commanded the earth itself, or leapt from such a height to catch a falling princess. His humility, juxtaposed with such impossible power, was bewilderingly attractive. I found myself lingering at windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. I inquired discreetly about his movements, learning he was preparing for his return to his distant empire. A pang of something sharp and unfamiliar struck me at the thought of him leaving. My nights were now filled, not with nightmares of falling, but with dreams of emerald eyes and silver hair, and the feeling of strong, safe hands. My ladies-in-waiting, sensing a shift in my demeanor, whispered amongst themselves. "The prince is truly remarkable, your grace," Lady Alara ventured one afternoon, as I idly traced the pattern on a tapestry, my mind miles away. "So exotic. Did you see his dragon? Like a jewel." I nodded, my heart quickening. "He is, indeed, remarkable," I agreed, my voice softer than usual. I resisted the urge to demand more. I didn't want their trivial observations, I wanted his presence. I knew the stories of our Valyrian ancestors, of the few times they had taken non-Valyrian brides. My own mother, Alysanne, had brought a softness and a human wisdom to my father's reign. But this was different. Arion was not just a different lineage, but a different species, it sometimes felt. An elf prince, with the powers of the earth and life itself. He seemed to embody the very magic that had once flowed through our dragons, a magic that felt almost forgotten in the daily grind of court. The debt I owed him was immense, a debt of life itself. But increasingly, it was not just gratitude that stirred within me. It was a profound curiosity, a desire to understand the quiet power behind his eyes, to explore the mysteries of the empire that had shaped him. He had rescued me from my fall, but in doing so, he had also awakened something new within me, a fascination that transcended the practicalities of alliances and the expectations of my royal birth. He was leaving, soon, and the thought of him returning to his emerald homeland, a place I could barely imagine, filled me with a sudden, desperate longing. A longing not for escape, but for connection to the man who had effortlessly bridged the gap between life and death for me. My interest was no longer quiet, it hummed beneath my skin, a vibrant, unfamiliar song. Visora's thoughts are clear.